What's happening? This is a live stream number 2 for the day. We're going to do a rare thing here. We're going to drop a link. This almost never happens anymore. Be interesting. Yeah, that's right, Mark Basket. Chat lives matter. Indeed. We're going to work. The Royal We is going to suss this out eventually. But yeah, the rare dropping of the link. Now I get to go on another phone. Motherfucker. Peace and respect, Benton and Chad, indeed. Indeed, sir. All right. What's happening? I'm gonna go ahead and make my second egg drink of the morning. So if y'all want to hang out and chat, if anybody, excuse me, we'll see how long. If anybody clicks the link, we'll see how long I can tolerate whatever foolishness they have to say today. May not be long, but who knows? Maybe a demon or two will show up and we can uh, show everyone that they're the demon's folly, the folly of the fallen ones, right? Because I don't know that the demons in the ow. Although, oh shit, I've been sitting in the same position for so long, I might not even be able to continue to sit there. Let me stretch the legs for a minute. Ah, oh, whoo. Maybe I should have put open panel in the, which is not, but one at a time, perhaps. Perhaps one at a time. Quasi open panel. Maybe that we'll make a banner. How about that? Banner. Quasi open panel. Oh, they're already. No, that's more. I thought that was somebody wanting to come on stage. That's just more comments. Remember, what's this? Oh, wait a minute. Remember that good smell you get right after a rain? I don't actually. Haven't had that in years. Guess that's a Mandela. No, I know what you're talking about. I don't know. I'm not. One thing about Benton is, there seems to be a variation in sensitivity to smells, and they say that smell is the sense that's most tied to memory, but I'm on the lower end of. I've never really had a strong sense of smell overall, and I do seem to be on the lower end of this of the smells. So I actually don't, but and also my brain, I don't really notice things like that. So I can't. I'm inclined to agree, Mark, but I won't really know until there's a good hard rain, which doesn't really happen in Los Angeles. I'm sure it does, but I haven't been here. I've been here when it rained, but not like a hard rain, really. And that seems to be Oh yeah, weakest of the senses is the smell. Well, and what you're talking about specifically seems to be associated with um, what you're talking about seems to be associated with specifically a hard rain. So I don't know that I've even been around and outdoors. I do think part of that is, where I've physically been, and then as people are more and more indoors, who's even really going outside during those periods, right after the rain. So I don't know, man. I'm inclined to think it's probably still a thing, but I don't know that that would make it a Mandela. What's up, Rick? Good to see you, sir. Yeah, I've been I don't listen for too long, but I do pop in on that MMLA channel just to sort of see what they're on about. And I do see Rick over there sometimes. They give old Rick a hard time because you got a few very dogmatic Christians. And it's funny because I have no plans to post in the chat over there. But sometimes I see certain things where of course I want to respond, but it's like I already know the folly in even starting to post. And next thing it's going to be like, oh, come on the panel. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that. No thanks. Whatever version of an interrogation that would be. Um, yeah, it's certainly interesting to see what's going on over there. Let's just show the link. Actually, let's show the link. They're not going to be able to resist. I guess it doesn't really matter, but I am kind of thinking about my schedule this morning. Um, it's really a matter of convenience. And finally, it's been hot as fuck by LA standards. And I mean, it's been hot for like three, I'm not kidding, for 3 straight weeks, which is unusual for LA. And I mean, hot by LA. It gets hot here um, at times. It's been hot for about 3 weeks. And today it shouldn't be hot at all today. So, you know, so really all I'm going to run into if I delay the start of my day is I'll just run, I'll have to wait in line longer is really all that'll happen. So it's not a big deal. But, obviously I prefer to go into stores. Um, I prefer to go into stores when it's less busy, obviously. Oh, going for a run on the beach. Awesome. I'm assuming. I mean, I assume that that's awesome. Hopefully that doesn't make an ass out of you and me. And I found a very interesting article about Epstein, and it's a New York Times article about Epstein and J.P. Morgan and Jamie Dimon, who's the system keeps suggesting might run for president at some point. And the head of J.P. Morgan, or was, I forget which bank he's at, but I think he's still there. And it was detailing, post prison, post initial prison sentence and conviction of Epstein, that there was these banks were competing for Jeffrey Epstein's banking business to service his banking needs, and this $200 million or whatever being managed. And I've been saving that for the stream, but all right. Oh goodness. if I can get my knees to put up with going back to the seated position to make another egg drink. Let's see if that's doable. While we wait to see if anybody wants to panel it up, you just never know. If it doesn't happen pretty soon, I'll probably get up out of here. Well, and there's a whole hour before I can go buy more eggs because I've been getting them from a place that doesn't open until 8. 670 679 for 18 eggs, which is, considering where I am, is not too bad. Now there are some ones that are a little more expensive that I would prefer to get, but that's all right. It's not necessary. And of course, consider myself fortunate to have not had to go off of the eggs yet. A lot of egg yolks, more specifically. And I might need to open the door so I can see a little bit better, but I can't really put the flashlight in my mouth and continue to speak. Yeah, I've watched a lot of Devin. I don't know how to say his name, but yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, I actually do watch some arm wrestling content, and y'all may not know about Benton that I started watching Strongman in the '90s on ESPN. Um, so some of those strong men also are transitioning into arm wrestling. So I keep up with some of that, and also bodybuilding. Believe it or not, I keep up with some of the bodybuilding content, which I find not the competition side so much as the since I used to not bodybuild, but I did weight lift and put on a bunch of size at a certain time. Believe I know it sounds insane based on what I look like now, but I actually did have a decent amount of muscle on me at one point. So yeah, that's the thing. Man, my fucking tinnitus is kicking today. Hold on, I need some water. I'm getting dehydrated. And actually, part of why my shoulder's fucked up is probably from a old arm wrestling injury. Believe it or not, we used to arm wrestle quite a bit in school, and I'm pretty sure part of what's wrong with my shoulder is because I was on the lower end of the upper body strength scale in school, so I think somebody may have. I probably put up a little too much resistance in the wrong angle, and fucked my shoulder up. Well, actually, I think it was from a weightlifting injury from my teenage years. Actually, that's probably what it was. But the arm wrestling, I don't believe it helped either. But whatever. Part of growing up where I grew up back then is I've certainly been subjected to some physical injuries that I don't think would have occurred otherwise. But yeah, that the Devin guy, yeah, he's fun to watch. One of those guys is from Conway, Arkansas. I forget the guy from Arkansas's name, but there's one of those dudes that's from Arkansas. He's one of the better ones too. Then that Larry Wheels, he ain't that great of an arm wrestler, but he's kind of. I like keeping up with some of his stuff that he does. Have you seen what that Larry Wheels guy does? If you know who I'm talking about, he's a bodybuilder. He's been going to these bodybuilding shows, but it's so hard for him to go through the cutting phase that every time he does a bodybuilding show, he loses his mind and he gains like 50 pounds in like 2 days. And it's real bad. It's bad for your health to do that. Yeah, I keep up with some of that stuff. Squirrel. What happened? I'm a little out of the loop on the squirrel talk. Oh yeah, I know. Like I say, I know schoolboy and all that. The point about Larry is this: he doesn't have the technique, but schoolboy obviously has a lot because it's not really strength. I mean, you have to be strong, but it's clearly, you know, Devin's the best because of his technique and his strategy. But obviously the strength is a part of it. But because they found this guy from the Congo. Have you seen that guy from the Congo who's like really probably stronger than all of them? But I don't know that he's ever really learned the technique. I forget that guy's name. But yeah, I'm more of a casual arm wrestling fan, really. All right, I'm just going to leave the link on the screen. We'll see if that makes it to the thumbnail. Fuck, hang on, we're fucking up. Now it won't let me scroll back down. Why can't I scroll down? StreamYard. Okay, here we. Oh yeah, Mr. Voy. I don't know if I can deal with the European this time of the morning. Might be a bridge too far. But I'm on the free StreamYard. I don't know. I don't know how much of that I want to waste on this, but I mean, there may not even be a tomorrow, so fuck it. Who can say? Really, at this point, the major thing with the StreamYard is it's just way more convenient to schedule the streams than the YouTube app is. Oh fuck! I'm fucking up. Fucking up. Well, Schoolboy don't look like a nerd anymore because he's put a lot more size on. Mark, I'm sure you've noticed he's blowing. He's getting a lot bigger, putting a lot of size on. He was already a big dude, naturally big dude, but he's gotten even bigger. He looks a lot different now than he used to. I'm veiny as hell, Mark. Now, my body fat percentage is not quite as low, but it's crazy, man. At certain points, I got a lot of veins like in my forearms and shit. I got them on all over my biceps. It's kind of crazy to look at, especially since I don't really have muscles anymore. Yeah, no, I don't think we want Boy up here. No offense. Hopefully, Boy doesn't take offense. If he does, I guess really okay. Though. Nah, I'm trying to get involved in that right now. But maybe the levels of desperation might reach. We might become desperate enough. Let's see. Uh oh. Who is it? Oh yeah. Well, this will at least give us something to listen to. Michael Smith. Who the hell's Michael Smith? Yeah, I don't know who Michael Smith is. Verified through Facebook. Because King Stephen is not banned on my StreamYard. Oh yeah. Now is that King Stephen, but people have banned him, so he's had to make another name. See, I'm out of the loop on all this stuff, so I don't know if that's King Stephen or not. Maybe. Well, I don't have the energy for Bex. Bex is an energy drain. I don't have the energy for Bex. The thing about Bex is that she grounds with the masculine energy grounds her, but it's a drain. It's a drain. So I remember one of the worst energy drains I've ever experienced when I was talking to Bex, when I was truck driving, talking to Bex and that I forget the guy's name. Um, the gay dude that used to be a pop farmer. I don't know why I can't remember his name. I'm so divorced from all of this. Oh wait, we got the private chat. Oh, it's Mr. Pie. Yeah, Pizer. There you go. Yeah, Jeff Pizer. Thanks. Yeah, Pizer. Yeah, I talked to I remember truck driving years ago now, and had Pizer and Bex up there, and just the way I felt after that was over with, it was just like, good Lord, man, just totally drained of energy. Fucking vampires sucked the life out of me. Oh, is that what it is? Yeah, I think I'm inclined to believe that to be the case. Actually, King Stephen.
Hello. Hello, Benton. It's me.
Hello. What's
Hello.
up?
Good
What's up?
morning. Good morning.
Indeed. Indeed.
What's up? I just got my channel, The Sanity Machine, is back up. And that's where
Sweet.
I had subscribed to you. So I wasn't getting notifications when I had that, when it was down.
Mm,
So I just saw that you were live. And then I saw the
cool.
StreamYard link and I was like, yeah, I'll hop on. Excuse me. I'll hop on and, and say hello and see how you're doing.
I'm doing quite well. Thank you for asking. What about yourself?
Oh, fantastic. I'm doing great. Had a good sleep, had me some breakfast and some coffee, and I'm up and at 'em today. And yeah, Mr. Pie, Mr. Pizer, Jeff
Mm,
is that gay guy you were thinking of. And
hmm.
I think he's living now in Dallas with his sister or his mom. He was live recently with Talcott in a motel room. And he was drunk or something, saying, "Oh, Jack's got a nice motel room here," and he's looking over at the bed, and it was so gay. And Jack was saying, Jack was saying, "Oh, don't give him any ideas," and then Jeff or Pizer was saying, "Oh, I'm not staying here. I'm not staying with Jack." But he even looked over at the bed. It was so it was so gay. He makes
Wow.
himself look so bad. It just oh, it was funny, but yeah, he's living I think with his mom or his sister. And then when he goes on live streams, he's in these little bunk beds that looks like a child would would sleep there. And that's what happened to Pizer. I guess he's crashed out and he doesn't have his own place anymore.
Well, I've been sleeping in a car, so I guess I can't say too much on that account.
But the bunk bed optics kind of make him look like he's a weirdo. You know what I mean? Like he's got the bunk beds, but he's got the bed sheets of a little kid. There was
Oh my
something
God.
on it. I can't remember. It was like a cartoon or something. Sheets, and it's like, is that some you sleeping in some little kid's bed, or what are you doing now, Kaiser? I mean, it wasn't a good. It's not a good look. The guy just like he makes himself look pretty bad.
Hmm. Well, I
Yeah.
finally figured out what that whole pot farm thing was that he clearly, was had found a sugar daddy, and talked the guy into going into financing a pot farm. I mean, that's what that was all about.
Oh, that's what it was. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Now he never confirmed that, but I mean that's 100% what that was. And then eventually the guy just had enough of it, I guess, and shut the whole thing down and sold it. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I have no firsthand knowledge, but that was what I was able to glean from what he said.
Yeah. When you mentioned Bextra Large earlier, I was thinking there's not room enough for us both on here on panels. She's got the wide shoulders, as she says, I got the shoulders for this. I got the shoulders for this.
Well,
She's kind of got the masculine energy. She really doesn't have much feminine energy.
well, and I agree with that. I don't personally agree with the masculine women, but it is a lack of femininities. Definitely.
Yeah.
So it seems masculine, but it's actually a lack of femininity. But she's also feminine at times, just
She
like
might
some
have
of
her
the.
hormones messed up though. Like she
Yeah.
should go to a doctor and get that checked, the estrogen levels, the testosterone, and see if it's messed up. She might need that regulated somehow by a naturopath or somebody. I'm not necessarily advocating for Western medicine, but pale horse rider, that's hilarious. Well, I didn't choose to be born with a silver spoon in my mouth like Richie Rich. It
Yeah.
just worked out that way. So you're faulting
Well.
me for something
Yeah.
that's beyond my control.
Well, I was one of the first ones to say, I'm happy that people have resources. Why, I'm sleeping in a car, but that doesn't mean I want other people to not have resources. That's crazy, in
Yeah,
my opinion.
exactly. I mean, I don't want people to be poor and bitter like pissant pale horse rider just because I have money. It doesn't mean I want everybody in the world to be poor. Like that's kind of the assumption some of these people make that, oh well, King Stephen, he hates us peasants and pissants. And I've admitted I've pissed on a midget or two. I'm kind of a bigger, taller guy, and I have while out drunk when I was younger, I did piss on a midget one time, um, and I did think it was funny. But pale horse rider, just because you're a peasant doesn't mean that I hate you or want to keep you down. Like I'd like you to succeed.
Well, and then what would be success in that context is that's interesting too. And I personally, I don't have any problem with most of these folks. Um, Horse Rider's been a contributor to the channel certainly, but you certainly seem to really stir some of these folks up, and it makes it interesting and entertaining, I would say.
Yeah, it does. I don't even know who that is. This is the first I've seen of them, but they're talking about me, so that's the only
Oh,
reason I
okay.
addressed them. I don't know. I
I
have
see.
no history with Pale Horse Rider. I don't even recognize that name. That
Oh,
could
he's
be
cool,
anybody.
man. Yeah, he's cool.
Oh, okay.
I've been away from the panel verse for so long. I don't know what's happened in my absence. So
Yeah.
I just assumed y'all had developed some sort of history. No, he's cool, man.
No, I don't even know who it is. I have no idea.
Yeah,
But
that might just be some general fucking. Just people. They're sort of a base level of just fucking with people. So
well, he said I banned him or her. Is it a him in 15 minutes on my
uh,
channel? Well, don't take it so personally, Pale Horse Rider, whoever you are. I probably have 400 or 500 people banned. I don't like most people. I shouldn't have to just say it that directly, but
yep.
it's really no secret. I don't like most people. I don't get along with most people. I most people kind of rub me the wrong way.
Yeah, I'm in that boat to some extent, but being brainwashed by a cult as a child, I have this layer to my personality where I'm agreeable and affable. But I also don't like a lot of folks. But in my experience, pale horse rider's cool. So
I
that's just
probably did ban
yeah,
them, and or maybe one of my mods, and then I played the La Cucaracha song, and Mark Basket said he may have been called a cockroach. Listen, dude, I've called thousands of people a cockroach.
yeah,
Don't take it so personally. I mean, it's not just you. It's thousands of people on YouTube. It's thousands. I mean, I'm hated
yeah.
by thousands and thousands of people, maybe tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands at this point. I don't know.
Could be.
It could
Yeah,
be.
could be.
I might be able to fill a stadium like one of those great big football stadiums with
Yep.
haters. And
Well, and that's
it's
another thing. Go ahaid. Sorry.
oh,
Yep.
I love it. I just want to say I don't it doesn't bother me. I love being seen as the villain and hated by the peasant masses, the peasantry out there. I revel in it. I relish it. It's fantastic for me.
Yeah, and as far as a stadium, my own experience as a young man was people used to see me in public and hate on me just because I was represented something that they didn't like. I remember a specific example. Me and my girlfriend in college were walking to an arena to go to a basketball game, and a carload of frat boys heckled us and were verbally attacking me. And it was solely based on the fact that I was walking down the road with an attractive woman and they weren't. And
Yeah. Yeah.
you see what I'm saying? Like that's all it
Yeah.
takes at that age. So,
Well, it doesn't change
you
that
know,
much with most people into adulthood, whether they're 30, 40, 50. They tend to stay that way. Like the frat boys that were, I don't know, 18, 20, whatever age, they're probably most likely most people don't change for the better. So most likely they're similar today as to the way they were back then. A lot of
yes.
people are jealousy and envy driven. They don't work on themselves. They don't work on improving themselves or becoming more self-aware or more secure. It's insecurity and jealousy and envy. And that's what I see in a lot of these piss ants and cockroaches out there. Like filling a stadium, I think I could stand on a stage and be hated by 100,000 people. And instead of being down about it, I'd be laughing about it. I'd be like, this is great. I can rile up these fucking losers and get them to hate me just by standing here. I don't even have to insult them or say anything. It's like a superpower being able to trigger cockroaches. I treat
Well,
it as a
sorry to cut you off, but see, I've figured out what that is. That is a spiritual attack. I mean, it really is.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
part of being a person, uh, is to be spiritually attacked. And more and more, I'm seeing things in those terms. And
Yeah, it's
say what you want about real quick. Say what you want about Stephen. He doesn't spiritually attack me. Now he's made fun of me in the past. Who cares? Like we all have something about us that's mockable, right?
yeah. Well, that
It's
was before I knew
yeah,
you whatsoever, before we had
exactly,
any conversation. And I do that
exactly.
sometimes to test people, but I also do it sometimes. Well, it says in the Bible to test the spirits. It does say that, and I think that's even though I'm not really a Bible thumper, or Bible believer, it's
Well,
still
good. I'm
good
not either.
advice to test the spirits, right? It's a good thing. But I didn't know who you were associated with, and to me, some people would say, "Well, what does it matter who he's associated with?" Well, I do think that birds of a feather do tend to flock together in this realm, and demons of a feather flock together. If you look at who Bex hangs out with, for example, and I know some people would say, "Well, you got beef with her," but if you examine her behavior long enough and who she sides with and hangs with, she's something else. She reveals what she is by who she hangs around, and it usually is that way in society. It's not just a YouTube thing. It is
Oh
that
yeah.
way out there in the world.
Well, and speaking for myself, I don't have a problem with Bex, but we don't really hang out anymore because of for me, if I'm not getting certain things out of if I'm giving in a relationship, but I'm not receiving whatever I might need, pretty quickly, not quickly, but at some point, I'm just going to move on. Right. So I mean, I think that's pretty much what it is. So I tend to be less, and I'm not accusing you of grudge holding. I'm just saying in general, I tend not to hold grudges, but it's just me and whoever else will just end up going our separate ways at a certain point. Because it's like,
Yeah,
what's in it for me? And in fact,
yeah,
she emailed me out of the blue one time, and I emailed her a link to Janet Jackson. What have you done for me lately? You know that song?
yeah, yeah. I remember that one.
Because it's true. It's like, what have you done for me lately? And it's kind of an acknowledgement of what have you ever done for me? Pretty much fucking, and I don't mean you, I mean her. Pretty much nothing, right?
Yeah, she might have been
And
hungry.
yeah,
She
well,
might have been
again,
hungry.
yeah,
I, I know I go to the fat jokes, but she did say yesterday, the reason I bring it up, she was on a stream talking about a date and the guy fed her ribs at a ribs fest or something. And she was talking about the food. And most of what she discussed was not the man she was on a date with. We got no, just, I think it was on OTW's channel. She was talking about this. We got no description of the man that took her on a date. No idea what the guy looks like, if he's dark haired, tall, whatever, if he's no description of his personality, not just his looks, just nothing about him. It was all about the food. And he lives in a van, and he gave her some a rub down. Like she said, she had a sore shoulder or something, and got some like A535 Ben Gay something rub for her sore shoulder and a Tylenol. And then it was all about the food and the ribs and it was just like I think she used the guy for a free meal. Basically, she was hungry. She met him at
well,
McDonald's.
yeah.
You know, it's just I don't know, man. I do make a lot of fat jokes when it comes to her, but um,
Well, and I do think there's some instructive points for the audience is, and I'm accepting what you're telling me, which is, I wasn't there, but it sounds plausible. But then what you're describing is something that I keep running into with pretty much all of humanity, which is people who are trying to extract something. So, whether that's ribs and a rub down, in a van by the river, you know, it's, but I mean, but seriously, it's a person who's taking but not giving, right? And I've never, again, I'll take Stephen here as I find him, and I haven't found him to attempt to extract anything whatsoever out of me personally. So if I'm receiving whatever I need in the moment, then, and in some way you recognize perhaps that we needed somebody to join the stream, and here you are, versus there's been times when I needed somebody to join the stream and Bex was in the chat, and whatever she was doing was more important than my needs. And that's a person that's training me on how they're going to treat me. They're always going to take whatever I'm stupid enough to give, but then they're only going to give out of their own convenience. Whereas King Stephen has never done that to me. Now, if he made
yeah,
fun of me when I first met him, who cares? Not who,
yeah,
it's fine. Don't care.
yeah,
But I'm
and
not. I
then
don't
we
feel
kind
like
of
I'm being
hashed it out.
Well, I'm not being vampirically fucking sucked from. But I've spent enough time with Bex to realize she's only interested in what can she extract out of me, that's vampiric, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
that's wrong. That is demonic. Now,
that is what she does
I'm not
with
calling
channel to
her a
channel.
demon. I'm saying that's
Yeah,
demonic.
yeah. You
So
won't call her a demon. I would. I would go
yeah.
further and say she is a demon, but she does extract. She is a vampire, an energy vampire. She does that channel to channel. And Benton and I hashed it out, and he explained, "Hey man," he was like, "Hey man, I was sick at the time. That's why my weight was that way, neck." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay. I didn't understand." And that was it. Like that's what grown men do that are rational, reasonable adults. And it's like, "Oh, okay. Well, hey, I didn't know you, and I made fun of you without knowing the situation and why he was on that channel, or I didn't know the relationship. I wasn't part of the panelverse, so I didn't know who was who and who was
Hmm.
connected with who. I didn't know if Benton was connected with Paul because I think it was on the first time I saw Benton, I think was on a Paulie stream, an older video. It was years old when I saw it. So it wasn't
Yep.
even fresh. It was like years old. and Bex was there, and a younger El Perro, I believe, that looked way different back then than what he does
Yep.
today. Like El Perro looks like he's aged 25 years in the past, what, 3, 4 years. He just
Well,
looks way
and
different to me.
yeah. Well, let me jump in real quick and say that, this does show the nature of this realm, as I've termed it recently, a world of death and a game of lies. And, I've come to the conclusion that this world doesn't know what love is. Like they promote this as a world of abundance. This is a world based on a lack of abundance, you know.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
I've actually interpreted when you talk about sealing in the demons, I've finally realized that the demons energetically they're not able to escape this place. So whether that's you sealing in the demons or they just can't of their own accord, they're not able to get up out of here anyway. And I do want to address real quick the chat talking about Bex equals vampire Benton. But you see what's happening in the chat? It's already they're putting their own stink on my own comments. What I'm
Yeah.
saying, Voy, is my own personal experience was that Bex and Pizer vampirically drained me, and that's not their fault. That's my fault for allowing it to happen. And in fact, the majority of the beings in this realm, in my experience, are under those influences, and they are strongly identified with this world, and they vibrate on those levels. And I can have an opinion, people can have an opinion about Stephen, but he's at least, well, I shouldn't even say at least, he's addressing the nature of this place. And to me, that's ultimately what bothers people, is because a lot of the damage that's done demonically within this realm is based on this notion that people are basically good, that society, while it has temporarily fallen, is in fact a good, proper society. And I'm here to say society's never been a proper society, because if it was a proper society, how would it ever degenerate into what it has become? A proper society could never have the possibility of giving way to the present hellscape. And your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I agree with that. Society is not good. They assume that they're generally good. A lot of people say people are good at heart, but they make mistakes. But if given a chance and given some of these trials and tribulations and tests, the masses always reveal what they are. Their behavior reveals it. 2020, they showed people. 2001, they showed people. They could do another test this year or next year, and they will reveal it again. Most people follow evil. So if those that follow evil and are complicit with evil, that shows that they
Mm,
are evil. See, a lot
yeah,
of
I
people will
agree.
say they have a good intention. You
Most
know,
people are evil. Now, I'll
yeah,
tie it into the Bible. Christianity is based on the false teachings of Saul of Tarsus, also known as the Apostle Paul. And in his own writings, in the context of the Bible, he said no matter how pure his intention is, he ends up serving wickedness and evil anyway. And then that has been used through a religion, which is a demonic religion. All religion is of this world, therefore, it is demonic in nature. And his writings in the Bible have been used to say, well, it doesn't matter how pure the intention is, because the human will serve wickedness anyway. And that's simply not true. The human will do those things if the human is identified with this world. So to me, in my own interface and the way I phrase it, which is a different way than Stephen phrases it. However, it's interesting, in my recent live streams, I found myself conveying a lot of similar ideas to Stephen's ideas, but in my own way. So the reality is, people can be angry at Stephen's personality. He's greatly influenced the creative direction of this channel, and you do deserve credit for that, sir. And it's actually been a benefit. And I understand that was not your intention, but that is what's happened. So I did want to give you some compliments on that respect.
thank you. I appreciate it, and I'm glad that I have had an influence. I would say that there's a lot in this realm that claim they have good intentions or great intentions, like the LGBT, Rainbow Mafia umbrella group, and stuff like that, or Feminism, feminism. And what they've actually done has been destructive beyond words. and their excuse would be, well, we had good intentions, we wanted to do this. But evil often claims that it has good intentions, but it's the outcome that matters. And in a similar fashion, I would say to people that are religious, they'll say, well, there's a difference between somebody calling them jinn or demons or angels or spirit guides or whatever. And it's like, well, if their behavior is the same, what does it matter what their name is? What
Hmm.
different people in different cultures name them? If what they're doing in the end is destructive, then I don't care if it's called named an angel or a demon or a jinn or whatever. And as for the God whole God thing, I just think that people that follow God, if anyone has a ruler, a master, a lord, these are all titles, or a god, or something spiritually above them, a source, a father figure, a holy father, then by definition they're a slave because they're viewing something as their master, and only slaves have masters and lords and rulers. That's how I view it. But it's
Yep.
not just how I view it, it's beyond it's actually by definition only a slave can have a master and worship something as higher. If you're not a slave, like I'm not, I don't worship anything as above me. And then of course the dumbed down masses would do what they do and say, well, he must be a Satanist or he must be this, must be that. I'm not a Satanist. I'm not an atheist. I do believe in a life beyond this. I don't worship any deities or praise anything as higher than me, but I don't know a single atheist that believes in the spirit and believes in life beyond this place. That once the body dies, that life goes on spiritually. I don't know a single atheist in this realm, famous or otherwise, that believes in an afterlife. So I'm not an atheist because I do believe that there is life beyond this physical realm and physical body, meat suit, that once the body dies, the spirit lives on. So I don't know a single atheist that has that belief. So I think a lot of people are hung up on these labels and trying to fit people into little tiny boxes because most of the masses are simple and they will do what they said, put a stink on what you were saying and try to blame Benton for saying this and say, well, Benton's saying this about Bex or he's saying this or that. And this is what people do that don't care about the truth. They reveal they don't care about what's true, so they'll take what somebody says and immediately try to spin it, put their own uh, destructive spin on it or negative spin on it, and that's what they do, not just on YouTube, but out there in the
Well,
world. Most people do
and
that all the
and
time.
while simultaneously offering almost nothing of their own selves creatively, which I would argue is life itself in this realm. And the reality is, I can't confirm any life whatsoever outside of myself. I have no way of knowing. And the reality is, I'm coming to understand that this world is not a living world. This is a world of death. The nature of this place is the nature of death, whereas the nature of what I am is the nature of life. So, yeah, maybe these are human beings around me that have life, but I can't confirm that. There's no way for me to know that. These animals, the grass, the trees, yeah, in nature's enjoyable, but if I view this as a world of death and games of lies, and that nothing that traces its origins to this place will ever escape or move beyond this place, then is do those phenomenon or phenomena exist in the spirit of life or the spirit of death? I would say I've started referring to it as animated death or death warmed over. That's actually the level at which, again, the birds of the air, the trees, the grass. Yeah, it's got its, it's enjoyable. It's an environment, but so what? It's not. It doesn't have the capacity to move beyond this place. What can
Yeah,
a tree or the grass offer compared to the majesty of what is going on inside of me? And I think probably, I don't want to speak for you, but creatively and at the level of logic and reason and human experience, for me to then assume without proof that somebody else has those processes going on, and I don't mean you, I just mean generally, I've gotten to where I'm so skeptical, I need proof, right? And so this may sound like I'm insulting Bex. I'm not. What I'm saying is that My only experience of Bex is somebody who will not give me anything that I don't force her to give me. And then she will take whatever I'm dumb enough to let her have, and will never of her own volition just show up and say, hey, here's some love for you. Which, what is love? Love is a discipline of the mind and to freely give. That's not happened one time in my interactions with her, but Stephen has freely given at times. So, I mean, what am I going to go by? Society's expectations and assumptions, or am I going to go by my own personal experience and my gut and my own spirit? Right. And that's been my
Yes.
experience, is that I've, I have not been freely given anything, but I've absolutely been vampirically drained, which was my fault for allowing it to happen. And it's funny, when I sent that link to that Janet Jackson video, what have you done for me lately? There was no response. There was no, oh, well, I'm sorry, but I've been busy or this or that. It's just moving on to the next thing. Right. Just, and then probably will bide her time. And then if I'm dumb enough to entertain her vampirism again, then here I am being vampired upon. Right. So, I mean, you tell me, is that life or is that death? Right? Does that sound like
I,
life, laughter, and love, or does that sound like death, demons, and struggle and strife? Right? It has to be one of the two categories. Which is it?
I
You know?
I would say death and demons.
Yeah.
She doesn't give off life. She uses up what she can, and then she kind of moves along. She's very strategic and manipulative and cold hearted. That's the way I view her.
Yeah.
But I do see what you're saying. I had a live stream the other night talking about life and death, and at the end, it got cut off because it was over 12 hours. But I ended up saying that this isn't life. A lot of people assume this is life. They'll say they hate
It's not.
life or life is this. But what if they got outside of this place and looked back on it the way that you wake up and look at a weird dream and say, well, that was weird. That wasn't real. That was messed up. That was fucked up. That was just crazy and strange and nonsense. We might look at this place once the body dies and the spirit leaves like, what the fuck was that? It isn't life.
100%.
It isn't what people assume. And I've said to people, how would they look at nature if they could confirm it to themselves outside of this whole matrix? If they looked at it and said, actually, trees were just ones and zeros, and grass and ponds and rivers and creeks and this and that, vegetables and flowers and earthworms and fish and everything else. If you got out and said, it seemed real, it seemed like natural, but it was an illusion, like the holodeck in Star
Exactly.
Trek. It was just a trick, and we took it as life and living, and it was just ones and zeros. It just seemed very, very real to us at the time.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. And then I look at what the realm itself perpetuates, and I think about, when people get into spirituality, they might watch a movie like this 7 Years in Tibet with Brad Pitt. And in the movie, they can't even barely build the monastery because the monks insist upon they can't even kill an ant, right? And that's a lie of a symbol of, well, and it's based on, well, you might come back as an ant, so that might be one of your fucking long lost relatives. So we can't build them. It's going to take us 10 times longer to build the monastery because we can't even kill an ant or an earthworm. But to me, that's the realm itself mocking what I am by saying, actually, it's letting me know what this place is, that it's not actually alive. And it's almost like it's right there in our faces, and
And
people can't
I
see
would,
it.
yeah, and I would add to that, it's also a control mechanism of fear that, oh, if we kill
Hmm.
that ant, that could be us, that could be a relative that's been recycled or reincarnated. I call it recycled, but reincarnated into this system again. And the way that it is people are fear-driven beings for the most part in this place.
Yes.
They live in fear. They live in fear
Yep.
of religion, like God fearing is a. I just heard that phrase used recently where somebody said they want a God fearing man. Well, why would they want a God fearing man? Because that would be
Hmm.
a controlled man. that lives in fear. By definition,
Yep.
God fearing means they live in fear, right? So it's a strange thing for a woman to even want to say, well, I want a God fearing man. Why
Yep.
would she want a God fearing man?
Well,
Like that,
I
that's
agree.
very
And
revealing language. Go
sorry to
ahead.
cut you off, but in the Bible itself, there's a story, the parable of the talents, where God had supposedly given, a certain number of, endowments to three different men. And, one man got 10 talents and one got five and one only got one. And this might not be the exact numbers, but the person who was only given one talent, he buried his talent. The Bible implies that it's an amount of money, but I don't think that's what it represents, but it represents some value. He buried his talent in the ground. And when the Lord showed up and was like, hey, man, what'd you do with that talent? And the guy says, I know that you're basically a mean, overbearing tyrant of a leader. So I'm so fearful of what you might do to me if I don't safely keep what you've given me, that I buried in the ground. And instead of using it to create and bring forth something new, I hid it away from the world because I'm scared of what you might do to me if I mismanage the resources, right? And that's exactly what you're describing. So hilariously, again, the mocking nature of the realm, it's right there in these people's book, and they can't even see it. It's in their book. So
Yeah.
why wouldn't a demonic realm of death in their own book, it's mocking them and making fun of it? And their book says, I want to pass it back to you on this. Their book says that I will send the Holy Ghost, and it will teach you all things and bring unto your remembrance, right? And so that means I will be taught how to interpret the fucking scripture for myself. And I've interpreted that parts of it are actually written in a way to mock my own nature. I'm being mocked by the book itself. And then, of course, I'm able to rise to a level that can see these things. Of course, I have those abilities. And if I bury my talents like Christians do, I will never rise to the level of being taught how to discern all of these things for myself. So why wouldn't the system give me a book to say, well, you can't even use this book properly until you rise to a level within yourself to be able to properly even understand the meaning? And that's what it is to be a Christian that goes to church, because they're doing what you're talking about. They're being ruled over by a pastor and an organization and a religion that they allowed to give the meaning. It's like, well, wait a minute. The book itself says that the meaning will be explained to me from within myself. So what are we even doing here? But anyway, I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, they're there to be mocked and called sheep. I remember in church, the priest saying that you are the sheep, and the ones in the aisles, the pews at Christmas midnight mass would just take it. I remember as a child thinking, well, how can these adult men enjoy being called sheep and mocked and put down? And in the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
there's the whole book of Job where God is shitting on Job and mocking and testing and tormenting and allowing it all to happen. And it's all just a game. And people read that and they don't want to become Job. They don't want that to happen to them. They do live in fear of their so-called God, which I would argue is a demon, is a demonic being that gets off and jerks off on their suffering. I had a video on YouTube of God sadistically enjoying the torture of people and just jerking off and moaning and stuff, but YouTube removed it from my channel. I think they called it pornography,
Damn.
or it was against community guidelines or something. But it wasn't like, it was all moaning and stuff like that once in a while. But then, it would talk about torture and things. But anyway, this was a while ago, and I think that was one of my, well, I won't say my best videos, but it shows what is going on. I don't know if you've heard of this YouTuber, but it relates to this. There's a guy named Tony Sayers. He starts off his videos saying that he's there to hand out more shit sandwiches to his audience,
Mm.
and he laughs. He's telling them, I'm feeding you shit sandwiches, and he's laughing, enjoying it with a big shit-eating smile on his face, big grin, saying, here, you're back for more shit sandwiches, and then he makes money off his channel. So he's selling them, in reality, if his audience would stop to think about it, he's selling them shit sandwiches, mocking them, saying, you're here for
Mm-hmm.
more shit. to eat more shit, and I'm selling it to you. You're going to give me money to eat these shit sandwiches that I'm handing out. And
Yeah.
if that isn't as clear as day, I mean, they don't get it. It's right. It's just whoosh right over their heads, and they miss the
Yep.
point that the guy's feeding them shit sandwiches and laughing and mocking them. And that's like the Bible, and that's like religion, and that's like the government. It all ties in with all this stuff. They're saying, "Hey, eat these shit sandwiches," and he makes a living off YouTube. It's all he does. YouTube,
Mm.
and also selling chakra removal and his courses and all this stuff advertised through his YouTube channel. So,
Well, and that shows you what this place rewards. It shows you what this place chooses to reward is behavior like that. Meanwhile, again, if the Bible says that God is love, is God capable of doing half that shit from the Bible that is attributed to God? Well, not if God is love. So if God is love, the things in the Bible that it says, well, God did this and God did that. Well, if it aligns, if it's anything other than loving, then that's not possible because God can't be love and destroy the wicked
yeah,
in that way, as in a torturous,
but
you know,
but that's
even
a
the
perfect
idea.
system in a way. Sorry for interrupting, but that's a
No, you're
perfect
good.
system for how
Yeah.
to mind control the masses to
Yes.
instill cognitive dissonance where they're like, God does this brutal shit, but God loves us. God is love.
Yes.
And he does all
Yep.
this, and they try to make it make sense. They do mental gymnastics for
Yep.
years, a lot of believers, and it
Yep.
just fucks their minds.
Yeah, the thing that loves you the most has the highest capacity to do the most damage to you. Like, how is that possible? It doesn't even make sense.
We
You know,
have to
is it
fear
the
it because
yeah,
it loves us and it will cast us into hell and it
yeah.
will torment us or allow us to be tormented.
Mm-hmm.
But we're his children, but it allows this realm to be ruled by what they call Satan or the devil, given dominion over this realm. It says in the Bible that this was given to Satan, basically, or the devil, to rule. So God allows his children to be in a realm ruled by evil. And it says in the Bible that God created good and evil, darkness and light, that God created all things. So God created the evil that does rule this realm and torments us. But God loves his children, right? It doesn't add up at all whatsoever, but people
No.
do the mental gymnastics and they get mind fucked, just like any cult followers, whether it's Scientology, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormonism, or
Yep.
Catholicism. It's all the same. Buddhism, Muslims, Islam, Hindus. It's all mainstream religion, all big and
It's
small.
all demonic.
It's all demonic and it's all cults and it's all brainwashing. It all relies
Absolutely.
on cognitive dissonance and it just mind fucks you into being in a state of being a powerless, fearful slave, which is exactly
Mm-hmm.
what they want.
Well, and it's what they have, and I want to be specific. This world of death. When I say they, I mean this actual and this system of things. So, you know, I've come to these conclusions recently. Like Americans are authoritarians because you can't have an authoritarian government without an authoritarian populace. So it's not the authoritarian government that's a problem. It's that the people, just like the shit sandwiches, people unfortunately respond favorably to being bossed around and told what to do. And
Yeah,
that is the quality of an authoritarian because like we saw with the pandemic, the people who want to be bossed around and told what to do are happy when they feel authorized to tell you what to do. They then turn into a tyrannical authoritarian immediately. So they are authoritarians. So when I walk around the streets of Los Angeles in a little while, the reality is almost everybody I encounter is an authoritarian based on their own behavior, and that's this entire country is that way. It's sad, man. It's sick.
absolutely. Absolutely. And during 2020, they would yell at me to get out of the stores for not being masked up. And they turn into authority. They reveal, they don't turn into, they reveal that they're already inside authoritarian little tyrants, little Karens that say, "Where's your mask? Put your mask on." He's not wearing one. And they just revealed what was already there. Essentially, it was psychologically
Yes.
there. And that just brings it out into the open when there's an event like that where they really have an excuse to just go hog wild in a sense and be totally transparent and authoritarian and try to order people around. They live for that. These
Oh,
Karens, they
absolutely.
love it. They love it. I mean, that for them, that's like a thrill of their life, trying to tell somebody else what to do, what not to do, what they're supposed to do, quote unquote, supposed to do, and everything else. And people in the South don't realize that Canada was different in 2020. It wasn't like
Mm,
Florida, like some of these big talkers that say they didn't wear. Well, they lived in fucking Florida. Of course, they weren't forced to do anything. Here, they were arresting people, putting handcuffs in, forcibly injecting people. There was shit they were doing in this country that people that
mm,
live in Florida in a little bubble somewhere, like Drew from Chalk Body, uh, nobody forced them to do shit in that red state of southern state of Florida. It was all by choice, whoever wore a mask and did anything there. Here, you couldn't even travel and go into a building, and they would
hmm
just arrest you if your people hauled out, tackled, tased. Sometimes it's not worth it. So some of us did put a temporary mask on with a
hmm
message that was saying this is tyranny, or there was always a message on it just to be able to take a taxi, for example. They wouldn't open the doors if you had to
Yep.
travel here and you didn't have a vehicle or you don't drive or if you lost your license, whatever the circumstances people were in. There were situations here where you couldn't go to the doctor for any reason. It didn't have to necessarily have to do with the flu bug. You might have to go to the doctor for a cardiologist. You have heart problems. These idiots in states where nothing was forced upon them can't fathom living somewhere that was entirely different, that was more like East Germany with the Russians controlling it. They can't fathom living in a situation like that because they're comfy on the internet in a red state like Florida, saying, well, look at why would they do. I didn't get jabbed or get any boosters, but I couldn't even go into restaurants because you'd have to show proof on your phone with a fucking code showing that you had two of those plus the boosters to get a seat at a fucking restaurant. You get turned down at the door. So it wasn't
hmm
that way in Florida, but it was that way in Canada. So some of these idiots talking years later still don't know what it was like in other places. They're ignorant. And that's the internet and that's
Yep.
YouTube. And that's most truthers are absolute liars and ignorant fools that talk about things. If he was living in Canada, he would have no choice basically to stay in his home because he wouldn't be able to go out and get groceries or do anything either unmasked. It wasn't like Florida. And I know they like to talk tough there when nobody was kicking them out. But when you have 50 people yelling and screaming at you in a grocery store, get the fuck out and charging you, it's a different situation because you're the one there with the one in the entire store without a face shield and a mask on. You stand out like a
hmm
sore thumb, obviously. So it's a different situation in different places. Again, I didn't get jabbed up, and Drew will lie and say, "Oh, I know you did," and they just lie. That's what I noticed early on about the panelverse and so-called truthers. They're some of the biggest liars around and smear campaigners and ones that slander and lie and do things like that. Uh, the average normie on the street, I could find probably on my street more honest people that are normies, that are not truthers, that would speak more honestly than what people on YouTube do for the most part overall. A lot on here are absolute liars. They're quick to lie about people because they want to boost themselves and their channels up. And they want people to say, oh, well, don't go to that guy's channel. He's this or that. And that's what they do. There's been a concerted smear campaign effort against me for years. And I'm not crying about it. Bring it on. I'll take, as I have been taking them all on, dozens of these
hmm
channels. And it doesn't bother me if I'm the most hated one now and in the future on YouTube. If the Sanity Machine channel is remembered as the most hated, so be it. I know what I did, and I know what I put
hmm
out, and it wasn't for money. It wasn't influenced by money. It wasn't me trying to get buddy buddy with anyone or doing any of the stuff that the demon games that they play, like Baxter Large, the politicking. She'll use a channel like she did mine to talk for months and then go and slander me for years. She slandered
hmm
me now for several years. And people have to realize this. That's what they do. When they use you up, then they'll go to other channels and they'll speak somewhere else and use them up. And then she'll be bashing them eventually behind their backs when there's a falling out or a disagreement or once she's no longer welcome there, she'll change her tune about them. And that's the pattern there is in the panelverse. Beyond Bex, there are a lot like that, channel hoppers. There's no loyalty and honor and integrity with these people. I'd rather be hated than being loved for what I'm not. And I'm nobody's
Mm.
ass kisser. I'm not somebody that goes around kissing any asses. I just go on channels and say what I think. And a lot of them now ban me saying you've got a reputation, which is pure ignorance to judge someone without even knowing who and what they are. Just, oh, well, I heard from Jack Talcott that you're this way, or I heard from Paul the Slave, or this channel, or this one. And they'll just ban me saying, well, you're not welcome here. And it's like, well, you don't even know who the fuck I am. You all you have is hearsay and reputation. And people have said that I'm a criminal. They've said that I'm poor, that I live in an insane asylum, all kinds of stuff. I let people, in a sense, in a way, I let them tell these stories and gossip because there's no point in me wasting my energy, anyways, to correct the record on that sort of stuff because I realize zombies in this realm are going to believe and repeat whatever they hear anyway. It's not worth my time and energy trying to say, no, 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 I don't live in an asylum. In fact, I've joked about it on my show saying I live in the penthouse of an asylum and I'm allowed guns and knives and swords and some of the on my channel. They allow me all this stuff in this asylum, right? Like I'm running the place where I can show these big knives in my videos and I'm allowed weapons and whatever I want. I'm allowed to have whatever because it's just ridiculous. But that's what they reveal what they are, and I would say most truthers are some of the biggest liars I've ever met anywhere. And I've been on
Mm.
YouTube since the beginning, so I've been paying attention a long time. And most of them are not honest. If they're not honest about me, the lies they tell about me, why would people believe them on their channels when they're telling you about this realm? If they lie about me, who's to say that they're not going to lie about all the other stuff they talk about on their channels, whether it's Drew, the Machine Lies, Bextra Large, Paul the Slave, whoever. If they're
Yeah.
lying about me, Flow State, whoever, if they're lying about me, then how can you trust anything they say? If they're saying King Stephen doesn't have a license, he's poor, he lives in an asylum, he's this, he's that, he's this, he's that, he's schizophrenic, he's this, he's that, then how can you trust them on anything?
Well, absolutely. And then, anybody, even somebody that sounds like me with a Southern accent, and, that is, for English speakers, that's if you want to make fun of a dumb person, not you, but if anybody wants to make fun of a dumb person, they imitate the way I talk, right? Not me individually, just the accent of the region where I'm from. So
Yes.
in my life, I accept the fact that anybody that that exhibits logic and reason and critical thinking, regardless of their tone of voice or how they present or their choices in life, because they have logic and reason and critical thinking skills, you are able to make a point. So the lack of integrity is where, and this happens to me a lot in the past, where I'm treated as if there's no possibility that I can make a valid point. But it's like, well, wait a minute. I'm exhibiting all of this logic and reason and critical thinking skills. And then these truthers that you're talking about, when I do have a conversation with them, unless they're trying to vampirically drain me and they're blowing smoke up my ass, they will not concede a point to me unless I happen to be playing into whatever their agenda is. And they do prove themselves to be what I've taken to call sysigents or cis agents of the system. Whether that's their intent or not is immaterial. That's I would say most of humanity at this point is functioning at the level of agents of the system. Now, I do want to line some of the ideas I just heard. I want to line them up with the Bible real quick, which is, you know, and again, Jesus in the Bible would have only been able to speak in a certain context because they did in the story. Again, I don't know if this happened or not. Does it even matter? But in the story, he was executed by the powers that be for sedition or speaking out against the government, is what that is. That was why he was put to death in the story of the Bible. But So he would have had to phrase things in a master slave. Like he wouldn't have been free to speak outside of a certain context, or he would have been punished and put to death. But Jesus said, the servant is not greater than the master. And so if he's the teacher to the disciples, he said, you see what they've done to me. What do you think they're going to do to you? Which means you've seen the capacity for humanity to treat a representation of love and tolerance and acceptance in Jesus. And you see how this world treated that. What do you think they're going to do to you? Meaning me or you or anybody else who's actually going to live based on independent principles and say, well, realistically, we don't want to participate in this because I can't fully participate in this society and express my own nature, right? So if my nature is one with love and creation and the source of life, and I've asserted that it is, then this world will only ever attack and mock and ridicule that. So, what I would say is the fact that you are attacked so strongly, so consistently, isn't that evidence of what you may very well represent, even though your manner, much like my accent, the way in which you perform is what's critiqued and criticized, not the ideas. That's to me is the key point.
Yes. Well, and it shows they can't debunk my ideas, my theories, my model, or they go after that and make hour-long videos debunking me, and there's none that exist. You can
Same
search
with me.
YouTube. There's not one
None.
that says, here's King Stephen's model for reality for this realm. Here's what he sums it up. And I've said, I don't report channels. You can record. I encourage people to record my words, word for word, record from my content, then pause and respond, debunk. If you have ways to debunk me, nobody's attempted it. They'll talk about my looks. They'll say his weight, the shirt, as Voy was doing earlier. What guy wears a shirt like that? This is the common. They reveal what they are. The rabble always reveals what they are. They have no arguments. All they can talk about is superficial stuff, looks, clothing, whatever, money. They have no arguments against my ideas, my theories, my model for reality. They have nothing to debunk me. Otherwise, they'd be doing it over the
Yeah.
years. There'd be a dozen videos. There's hundreds of videos about me, dude. Hundreds. There's whole
Oh, I
channels
know.
about me.
Well,
But none
and
of them
yeah.
address my ideas. None. Not one.
Well, and here's why is because in order to achieve that, they would have to develop themselves. They would have to develop their own critical thinking skills. They would have to spend much of the day deep in thought. And I spend much of every day for years deep in thought within myself. And I suspect that is some version of that for King Stephen. And I'm actually foolish enough. I go out into the streets of Los Angeles from time to time and I have this very loud voice. I deliver these booming diatribes. And every once in a while, one of these guys or gals, they get, enough of a gumption to try to get me to stop talking. And I say, listen, you can get me to stop talking, but you're not going to be able to do it unless you can exhibit a superior logic and a superior ability to access critical thinking. And I say, you know what? It's a really bad sign for Los Angeles that I'm here talking the way I talk and sounding the way I sound. And you folks can't even access whatever you might need to access to battle me at the level of logic and reason and critical thinking. And I said, listen, I'll take the critical thinking challenge, Pepsi challenge of the week with any of you folks, any day of the week. But see, what they want to do is accuse and ask questions, right? Do this rhetorical version of, well, what about this? What about that? And I'm like, I don't know. Why don't you tell me about it? Why don't I listen to you talk about it or them? Why don't I listen to them talk about it for 30 minutes? Let me listen intently, take some notes, and then let me respond. They can't take the heat of that. They don't,
Yeah.
because they don't have an incentive. This demonic world cannot incentivize them because this demonic world is based on business transactions. And these people, a lot of them they make a good salary in order to live in Los Angeles. They have high levels of education. A lot of them come from what's considered proper, prominent families, But in order to exist in those worlds, they can't have too high of a capacity for independent thought, or they're no longer going to be able to fit into society. So if and I don't want to keep speak for Stephen, but if Stephen has a luxury of having access to resources, that probably insulates him in some ways from having to fucking freely mix with the rabble. And for me, how am I ever going to go into this world? I've actually developed myself beyond the ability to fit in. I'm no longer capable of it. Meanwhile, I tried to fit in at the level of employment and had a wife and a mortgage and all of these things, and I still couldn't do it. So at age 50, if it was possible for me to make something of myself in the view of America, which only measures in money, if we can't quantify it in dollars, it may as well not exist. Well, I can never meet that standard. Meanwhile, I'm surrounded by people, 99% of whom will never meet my standard for logic and reason and critical thinking. And I'm pretty sure Steven's smart enough to realize that my standard ain't that high. It's good enough, but it's, there's levels beyond what I'm accessing with logic and reason. So that shows you the development of your average person when it comes to, once we remove the carrot and the stick of money and status quo and social contract and peer groups, if we're expected to utilize intelligence and spirit and gumption and intellectual integrity or pseudo intellectual integrity, if there's not something directly in it for them at the level of reward, they can't develop to my level. See, it's simply not possible for them. So unless I'm dumb enough to play into their hand and let them, and when I'm speaking intelligently, to be quiet and let them ask me questions, when I know they're never going to spend 30 minutes breaking down reality for me, then I would be a fool to entertain their notions whatsoever. They at least need to prove to me that they can operate at my level or above, and they can't, because there's no incentive there, because they're vampires, they're demonic vampires, and that has never been on the menu for them to drain me or to drain the people around them. Meanwhile, I want to pass it back to you on this. There's nobody in the present environment that's getting ahead financially that's doing it outside of illegal, immoral and or unethical means. So part of being a human in this society and expected to earn a living and be, quote, successful is to be gaslit as if it's a proper society, and the people who are getting ahead have done it through hard work. Not once in all of human history has anybody hard worked themselves into actual riches. It's never happened because it's not possible. And then, so it's this idea of, well, there's no achievement unless we measure it in money. And I'm here to say bullshit, because money is of the nature of this world. It's dead anyway. That's this is what the Christians don't understand, is they think they're supposed to pay taxes. Listen to this. The church doesn't pay taxes. And then this is a shit sandwich. This is what you were talking about with the cult leader and the shit sandwiches. The cult leader says, hey, come sit in the church pews, but the church doesn't pay taxes. But because Saul of Tarsus claims to have had a transformative experience of Christ on the road to Damascus, well, and he wrote the book of Romans, which says, basically render unto Caesar, then we're going to need y'all to pay taxes. Meanwhile, the church itself doesn't pay taxes. How could that ever be proper? It doesn't even make sense on the face of it. And that's what I mean by my level of logic and reason, that, let's be honest, is not even that high of a level. It's just far beyond what these bozos can figure out.
Yes. I would say there's a lot in there, but I don't view money as success, but that's what the rabble view it as. So if I say I'm successful, they immediately think money. Just like if I say I'm independently wealthy, they'll change it to Steven says he's a millionaire. And all I said was I'm independently wealthy. I could also say that I'm retired. I'm not 60 years old. I won't say my age, but I'm retired. So I don't have to work for the rest of my life, and I have money coming in, and I'm financially fine. To me, that's good enough. But for them, they imagine all these sorts of things like, hey, he's saying this, and they change my words into something else.
Well, but I do, and real quick, let me jump in real quick, because see, and I know why they're doing this is because again, they don't have access to abundance and love within themselves. So they can only ever experience what you're saying as it's a reinforcing. It's not that you have something, because that's not possible in their world. It's that you saying that, it then reminds them that they lack what you're speaking on. So it's actually this inverted world that promotes itself as a world of abundance. It's actually the lack of abundance. And so that you're claiming wealth and success, it reminds them that they only have access to what is considered wealth and success if they behave like good little slaves, which means inside of themselves they actually are experiencing a lack of success, and left to their own devices, they are not able to become successful. So if you show and prove any measure of success, it's back to the jealousy and envy. And what's the jealousy and envy based on is that they, in their internal spaces, energetically, they know that their experience of wealth and abundance and affluence is actually, it's a backwards rationalization based on the lack of those traits.
Yes. So it does boil down to their own insecurity and their envy and jealousy and lack. They're lacking rather than
Yes.
what I actually have or what they imagine that I actually have. It's all
Yeah.
within them. It's like a battle within themselves. But when you said
Yeah.
about, oh, I probably can insulate myself from the rabble, that is true. I don't have to go to grocery stores. I can have everything delivered, not just groceries, but anything that I need or desire. And I really am not that materialistic. I like art supplies. I like collecting certain things like knives, for example, weapons. I do collect certain things like that, and I will spend money, but it's not about the money. It's kind of about the beauty of having it, holding it, admiring it, the art of it, the construction, the engineering, the design, things like that. It's not a matter of, oh, look how much I spent on this sword, or look how much
Yes.
this brand new. It's not that. It's different than that when I collect
Well,
these things.
yeah.
And it's
So,
also
and sorry
goes
to
back
cut you.
to, of course, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and so for they're only interfacing with this based on what they believe, how they would function, which is their reason to have the object is what attention could they get from other people. They don't care about the object. It's what will other people think of them as a result. They're seeking to fill a void within themselves, whereas what is represented when you buy art supplies is because you want to create something. If you enjoy a particular object, it was created with an artist had a creative ability. And that's why I've recently been talking about the power and force of love and creation. So these beings who only understand love from the lack of love, they only understand creative ability from the lack of creative ability. Well, they know inherently that they can't bring forth anything based on love and creation. They lack that ability, but they can temporarily fill a void, especially through how other people view them. And that's why people want a lot of these expensive cars and a certain type of clothing and a certain brand. And it's not the brand that they like, it's the brand that other people say is cool, which again, that's to be a slave, and that's to be dictated to, and that's to prove themselves authoritarians, because they're letting something outside of themselves dictate to them what has value. Whereas what Stephen is talking about is he will access his own creative force and he will make something new. And in that process, he will potentially admire certain other artisans' creations of his own choice. And my version of that is I like to look at street art and visual art and graffiti art. So part of me enjoying Los Angeles is I walk around and I see what I consider to be artistic graffiti pieces. Now, to some people, that's just trash, but beauty is in the eye of the beholder, as they say, right? And if it's going to be on the wall anyway, why shouldn't I come appreciate it? But I can't ever get points for that. There's no version of now other people think I'm cool because I know how to appreciate this particular mural on a wall. You see, same thing with whichever out of 1,000 different knives, whichever knife Steven likes, that's a particular choice, and that's based on another human being with love and creative force gave it to you versus this realm again of business transactions that says, well, this is the brand of handbag to have, this is the brand of shoes, and this is the type of automobile. And all they care about is, can they get attention? And again, they don't know what love is. So uh can they receive this proxy perverted version of what they might think love is because they have somehow been rewarded for serving a demonic system of evil? They've been rewarded for serving evil sufficient enough as to have the resources to engage in that level of consumerism. And this is where the nuance comes in, is that it kind of looks like the same thing at first glance from what you're describing to what I'm describing, but it's not the same thing at all. And I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I could give an example. Recently, in the past couple of weeks, I bought a new dagger. I have a few daggers already from different companies or different. Some were handmade in different countries, but this one I haven't shown it on the internet. I haven't made a video. Nobody's seen it, but I've been enjoying holding it, looking at it. The design of it is very different from the other daggers that I have. The weight of it, the handle material, the way it feels in the hand. I enjoy just the tactile experience, the aesthetics, the beauty, the
Mm-hmm.
engineering, the weapon. Like there's a lot of aspects to it that I get enjoyment out of, whether I ever share it or show it to anybody, or as they would do, show it off. I don't show it off.
Yep.
Show it off. I don't feel the need to be showy, to have to show off everything. Some of them have said, "Why don't you show your cars? Why don't you show your place?" I don't feel the need to show that. I don't feel the need to expose my girlfriend to this. And they'll say his girlfriend's invisible. There's no benefit to showing my girlfriend to a Bextra large to open my girlfriend up to the attacks of the internet. There's no benefit to that. It's all risk with no reward, and it's pointless. I don't have anything to prove, which is why for years, I've been in a relationship for years before anybody knew me on YouTube. I don't need to show off my girlfriend. I don't need to prove myself to demons. All right. I'm very secure within myself.
Yeah.
And as for the rabble aspect, I do try to get everything I can without having to interact with them very much. And I've
Mm-hmm.
admitted to that. And I think that does bother people on the internet because they'll say, "Oh, I love going to the grocery store. He doesn't go out." They'll twist it and say, "Well, Steven's a hermit. He just lives in his room or in bed, or he lives in his place. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't go out." Meanwhile, there's videos of me going out hiking for miles, hour-long videos of me hiking. Like I do go out, but I don't have to go in a grocery store and do my shopping myself and do I can pay someone to do that and deliver. And it shows me the driver or the shopper and the driver. And if they're Muslim, I mean, there's been times I've ordered 20 packs of bacon just because it was a Muslim doing my shopping for me. I mean, I do
Wow.
have that, the Joker
Yeah.
part of me that just, I admit to that. I've admitted to it on my channel. I'll order pork loin roasts and just like all of
Mm.
a sudden you can add to the order and the guy's probably going, "What the fuck? How come there's all these bags of pork all of a sudden being added on that he has to handle like bacon? They're not supposed to touch it." So I don't know whether they put on
Exactly.
gloves or what, but I find it hilarious because if they're going to live in this country and work in this country and their name's Muhammad, then they're going to get all of a sudden 12 packages of bacon and
Yep.
pork chops and pork loin roasts. And maybe I didn't have that in my order at all, but all of a sudden there's $200 or more just to pork added onto my order. As
Yeah.
he's shopping, it gets added. You can add stuff while the shopping's going on, and all of a sudden it pops up on their screen. And they're probably going, "What the fuck? This guy's all of a sudden ordering all this pork out of the blue." More and I
Well,
just find it funny,
yeah.
you know. I don't have to. It's not just groceries. I can get whatever I want. I can get
Yep.
joints of marijuana in Canada hand delivered to me to my door and
Yep.
pay at my door, and it's legal. And this bothers the rabble on YouTube because they can't afford anything, and they're living in
Hmm.
lack, and they're jealous and envious, thinking, well, he can do that. He thinks he's this. He calls himself a king. They get into this hateful mindset, which hurts them. It doesn't hurt me. Like they're burning with rage and hatred. They're making
Hmm.
themselves sick as I'm laughing, living my life. And there's ones that make videos about me, like Callie. I don't know if you remember her character. Well,
Oh yeah.
is still
Oh yeah.
talking about me. She's now living in a tiny house on somebody's property. It looks like a shed that he built for her, and she's still talking about me
Yeah.
every time she goes live. And she hasn't been
Well,
part of my
and
channel since last
well,
year.
there's a
So
word for that, and that's called a mooch. Because the reality is, like what you're talking about, uh, I don't have to live in a car, but what would I do? I would probably end up meeting some woman and stealing her resources. It's not like I can't meet somebody and go live in their apartment with them, but I'm not a mooch, so I'm not going to do that. Now back to the Muslim thing, it is funny, but you're proving that they lack the courage of their convictions, because as soon as it comes down to the almighty dollar, all of this stay away from pork stuff goes out the window. When they got bills to pay and they're not supposed to touch pork, the next thing you know, they're touching
oh,
pork.
yeah, they'll do it if you pay them. But it's beyond the
Yeah.
Muslims. These creatures in the chat, and no offense to it being your audience, but I could pay them to do anything, and they would do my bidding. Most
Mm,
people don't have principles and morals and ethics. They don't have standards.
that's true.
Most of them could be paid to do anything, and they would view me as evil, saying, "Well, you put the money in front of them." No, but they made the choice to do it.
Hmm.
Just like I could pay a homeless bum to go fight someone else or go do something, if I wanted to have fun doing that. Knowing ahead of time, it's not a guess. It's not me saying I wonder if they would do it. It's a knowing. Yeah, with the right amount of money, most people will do whatever. They don't
Yes.
have anything within them. They just like they'll go along with a scamdemic or whatever the government says. It's the same sort of thing with a bit of monetary incentive. They'll do anything. And Joe
Hmm.
Moore in the chat, I could probably pay him to do things that on here he would say is disgusting, but if he was desperate, he would fucking do it. Just like women will go to Dubai or wherever, and they'll get shit on by these rich sheiks, Arabs that will shit on them, and they'll fly them there and give them 20 grand or 25,000 US or whatever to go do that. And they will go get humiliated, sexually degraded, and these people in the chat room are really no, I don't see them as any different. I
Well,
think that
and
there's just a price and they
yeah.
would do whatever.
Well, and I'll speak to that outside of the context of Joe Moore, because we enjoy his company over here, but I'm only speaking for myself on that regard. But see, what I've realized, it took me a long time to figure out that a lot of these people who, if I'm dumb enough to internalize these spiritual attacks, that it's invariably the person who's spiritually attacking me in the physical realm is somebody that probably earns their money serving something like what you're talking about, whether it's somebody on OnlyFans or just whatever these people are doing to get money. And because
Most
I'm
well,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry, but most of their daily lives is humiliation. It's
I
not just
agree.
the
Yeah.
extreme scenarios where I'm saying they would take 20 grand to let some
Yeah.
Arab squat and shit on their chest, which women do. This is
Yeah.
known in Saudi Arabia, or to get pissed on by a group of Arabs and all
Yeah.
this sort of stuff. It's not just having sex, normal sex with them as
Sure. Yeah.
prostitute, it's degradation and humiliation.
Yes.
But most of these people in the chat and most of the people in the realm beyond this, I'm not doing it to isolate your chat or to pick on them. Most people in society, in American society, Western society, Eastern, wherever, are humiliated day by day as slaves to earn money, to earn shekels, and
Yeah.
they don't really have any standards or principles where they say, okay, I draw the line here. I'm not doing this for money. I'm not going to do this. Most of them won't ever draw a line, and there's always a certain
Yeah.
amount where they'll do it to get food, or and they'll put down people that have more than they do or live in ways, and they reveal their weakness by making comments about someone they know nothing about, like sounds like a glorified Sam's Club member. Well, really, I don't think they deliver weed at Sam's Club or deliver, $1,000 knife to your door or whatever you want. It doesn't really
Yeah.
sound like Sam's Club, but they misrepresent, and they're right away. They're right off the bat. This is the reaction of the rabble. They do stuff like this. They try to paint someone or misrepresent them in a certain way, or it's all
Well,
like
yeah,
empty
their
jokes.
life, because their life is perfect. They're only ever going to portray their life as perfect. Meanwhile, most days when I start these streams, I talk about how I'm in the back seat of a Nissan Versa parked on the streets of Los Angeles, and I slept in it, right? Because who cares? It's not. It's not necessarily an overall preference. It is what it is. But I'm in no way interested in promoting a false image of my life. And in fact, what I've come to realize recently is that when children are born in this country, and I'm only going to talk about America, but in America, what happens is that the child is born, in my opinion, spiritually perfected and innocent, and then the parents sacrifice the child to Moloch, which is a demonic, pagan. I don't have to tell you what that is, but not everybody knows, but it's a representation of industrial and post-industrial society. So the very system of business and employment and government and so-called earthly, worldly, dead authority, what that adds up to is that because their parents go and sign them up for birth certificates and social security cards and all of these things, and then send them off to school, generally public school, and they're indoctrinated into how to serve these corporations to make these rich people richer. And that's actually symbolically, it's to take something that when it came out of its mother's womb, I would argue is representative of spiritual perfection and innocence, and that's blessing itself. And then this realm, after the sacrifice is made to Moloch, the symbolic sacrifice, it's then to get the individual to treat their blessing and what I would argue is their birthright within the context of this delusory realm and illusory realm, is to treat it as if it was a curse. Again, why? Of course, that's what the inverted world does, because this world of death, in my view, lacks all of these positive characteristics that are symbolically, it is symbolized in the innocence and spiritual perfection of a newborn baby. And how sick and twisted this place is that most of effectively all of the individuals here have been through that process of indoctrination and mind control and the humiliation rituals, myself included, being humiliated by those systems of employment and education and brainwashing and mind control. And then here's the thing is to come out the other end of that, as I've chosen to do, and perhaps you've chosen to do, and I don't want to speak to your experience, but in the ways I've chosen to come out the other end of it, not only am I not rewarded externally within this demonic realm, I'm actually punished. So what I've figured out is this world and the people in this world are so gaslit that when they conform to society standards, they believe that they're treated with love and tolerance and acceptance. It's not the case. What happens is when people don't conform to the status quo, when they don't uphold the social contracts within their peer groups, what happens is the realm and the people in the realm blast them with fear, guilt, and shame. And that if they then get back in line and they start conforming to society again, then the most of the fear, guilt, and shame is temporarily it's removed, so that what's left in the breach feels like love and acceptance. And that leads to a condition where people simply don't know what love is. They don't know what tolerance is, and they don't know what acceptance is, because they experience love as the lack of being attacked with fear, guilt, and shame. They experience acceptance as not being attacked with fear, guilt, and shame. And see, and
I, I
that's
see what you're
backwards
saying.
or inverted. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So is the realm. The realm is designed exactly that way, as you said, to be backwards and inverted. Um,
Hmm.
and I get what you're saying, but my goal would be to become strong enough, and I do feel that I am this way, where I don't need acceptance, approval, and if there's mockery, hatred, it just strengthens me and shows, oh, I'm on the right path. The masses
Absolutely.
hate me, the rabble hates me. It's worn with a badge of honor. It's worn with a smile, and I just say, bring it on. And I do encourage them. I do rile them up. And I admit to all of this. I do go over the top at times, stir things up, and try to get them to hate me even more, because it's fun for me. It just becomes fun, where I don't
Yes.
think there is a way of reaching them anyway. Some people would say, why do you do that, Stephen? You rile them up, or you wind them up, or you get them to take the piss, or as the Brits say, or different things. I do, but it's fun. I don't assume that I can reach these people, because their first
Yes.
instinct is to mock and be jealous, as you can see right in the chat. But you can see this as I'm a guest anywhere on any chat. It's not just here. It's all over
Sure.
the internet.
Oh,
That's
they
the
but
way it
they
is.
do it to
I'm not.
me. Hey, they do it to me so much that I did a second unplanned stream yesterday, and what you just spoke on was the theme of yesterday's second stream, which is they also do all of that to me. They just do it in a different way. So it was
Yeah.
me. So the reason why I did the stream yesterday was it was sort of calling them out for their own bad behavior, because since a lot of these folks don't understand what love is, I basically challenged them at the level of, hey, how come I'm never complimented? How come, I'm not praised for my efforts? Why? But then, and it was around the like button. It was like, I can't, I understand that folks don't necessarily have money to donate, and that's okay. But even what costs them nothing, because they've been so indoctrinated by this world. I'm not making excuses for them. This is just my understanding of the psychological mechanism. It's not a get out of jail free pass. It's this is how it functions psychologically, in my view. But see, they view the clicking of the like button as a resource that they're going to withhold at a default level. And then if I somehow manage to please them well enough, they might consider clicking it. And so finally, I allowed myself to become sort of just worked up about it, not in an angry way necessarily, but just as a sort of like, wow, they really are this way. And it was like, hey, you know, how about I get some flowers every now and again? How about y'all give me a little bit of a compliment if I've earned it every once in a while? Meanwhile, what does it say about people when it's free to click a like button, and they won't even do that because they see the power and the currency and withholding it, and then maybe they will give it. And I'll tell you how I figured it out, because I do have some of these authoritarian characteristics, unfortunately, as a function of my personality, not being trained that way. It's just who I am as a person to some degree. I hate to say it, but it's true. So I, at times, have said, listen, there's however many people listening, and there's only 3 or 4 likes. And I said, I'm not going to continue the stream until we have at least 10 likes. So it finally got to 10 likes. I continued the discourse. And then by the end of the stream, we had 18 likes. Well, as soon as it became clear that the stream was going to be ending shortly, you know what happened? At least 3 people took their likes back. So it went from 18 to 15 in one fell swoop. And I realized, hey, wait a minute, they were gaming the system. They were willing to click the link if they were willing to click the like if I gave them something. And I withheld. See, I said, okay, I'm not going to continue the stream until y'all do what I'm asking. So they were withholding the likes. They gave the likes, but then after it was obvious that the stream was about to end, they took their like back. That's the type of people we're talking about here. Now, it's
Yeah.
not everybody, but it's a lot of
Yeah.
them. I wouldn't
I
even,
agree. I deal with that on my
Stephen,
channel too. Yeah.
that would not occur to me to do that. It
Me
wouldn't even
either.
occur
I've
to me
never done
behave
that.
that way.
I've never done
That's
that. I never thought
insane.
of it. Yeah.
It's insane.
But I've experienced the same thing that
Yeah.
you just described on
It's
my
in
channel.
fucking sane.
I've actually paused my stream and played music and put a banner up saying the stream
Yeah.
will resume when the likes have gone up, because there's been like 30 people tuned in, or 35, and there's like 12 likes or 15. Or it's over half the audience at least that hasn't liked it, and it's been live for a while, and it's just annoying. It's like, for me, it's a laziness. It's like,
Yeah.
are you too lazy? Because I don't respect laziness at all,
Yep.
not just on YouTube, but whatsoever, like lazy mindedness, especially. But
Oh yeah.
it takes half a second to move their mouse or on their phone to click their finger on something. And it's like, if you're enjoying my stream or my channel, even if you're not enjoying what I'm speaking about or agreeing with me at the moment, can you just support the channel for the fact that I'm spending my energy to do this day in, day out? Click like for that reason. It doesn't mean you like what I'm saying in the moment. It means that you're supporting something that's free content. I'm not making
Yes.
money. I'm not asking for anything. It's free. It's free to hit the like button, and you're too lazy to do that. That's the part that bothered me, was a
Yep.
laziness. Like, how lazy could you be not to move your finger that much? It's beyond laziness. I agree with what you're saying. It's them trying to use you. Like, oh, okay, well, I'll hit it for this reason, and then I'll remove my like if he's that's
Yes.
just so petty.
Well,
That's really petty of them, and it's so strange.
well, and they've turned the withholding of a thing that could be freely given, they've transformed that into a currency that they view as having a value. It's so the value is not in giving you something, the value is in withholding of something that could be given to you. And so what I did was I took that form and I made a stream and I called it, this was yesterday's second stream. I said, this world cannot value that which is freely given, because this world is inverted and it's based on its understanding of value is based on the lacking
I've
of
spoken a
these
bit about that
characteristics. I'm
too
sure
on
you,
my
and
channel.
again, I'm sure
Yeah,
you have, and I'm not, I don't want this to seem competitive, because the fact is, half of what I'm talking about, I figured out from listening to your streams. Like, this is seriously, I'm not even kidding. Like, I take ideas from other people, and over time, it percolates in my head. And then it starts to sound like I'm saying something that I'm claiming ownership over. I'm not. So I understand I'm there. I'm doing some version of preaching to the choir, but so rarely do I have a conversation with somebody who gets it right. And maybe that's the
yeah.
same for you. I don't know, but it's sort of, then I get excited. So that's where, I'm speaking
Oh, it is the
energetically,
same for me. A lot
yeah,
don't get it on here. I've said openly on
yeah,
my channel, if I put a price tag on this channel and on my streams, which I don't need to do and I'm not planning on doing, people would value it more if it was members only, join the membership club, pay money, because they see money, a price tag, as value. They think it's
yes,
valuable if he's charging, but Steven's channel's free, or all of it. I have multiple up right now. They're free, and they always have been, all of my channels. So they say psychologically, I think they believe it must not be worth as much as these channels that will charge. OTW has a $300 a month membership
what?
level. I, yeah,
Holy shit.
$300 a month US, I think it is. Maybe it's
Wow.
Canadian, but it's 300 a month. Eric Dubé's Flat Earth channel goes up to 150 a month. I mean, that's a bill. That's like a phone bill, or more than a phone bill, even. For some people, that might be not a water bill, an electric bill, or
Yeah.
some kind of cable bill, TV bill, whatever bill.
Car
That is a
insurance,
bill a
car
month,
insurance.
right? Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be
Car
car
insurance.
insurance, and they're paying that every month for what? But the perception is psychologically, and this is why I relate to what you're saying too, is psychologically they assume in their mind, without even saying it, it must be valuable truth because they're able to ask this much money for it, and it's all a
Because
perception game,
yes,
you know.
because this world only measures in money. So the fact that I'm on here living in a car without a job and I'm not paid very well for doing this channel, and people are free to donate. I've always accepted donations and never cared what anybody thought about that. But the reality is I was getting pretty generous donations last year, but I happened to be preaching a version of my own spiritual understanding that it more closely aligned with a lot of the Christians' understanding of Jesus and the Bible. So what happened is, as I continued to evolve those ideas, they diverted far enough from traditional Christianity that most of those folks no longer listen to my channel. And then that was most of the people who gave the generous donation. So since I've been doing this recently, I've received some donations, but it's 10% of what it was. But part of integrity is I'm going to continue to push the ideas forward in a transformative way of growth. And if that means my pocketbook suffers as a result, so be it, because I know that if I turn my spiritual path and growth and understanding into a business, that will be a trap of my own devising. And pretty soon I won't be able to pay my bills unless I'm continuing to perpetuate a version of an understanding that I'm ready to move beyond. And I can't move beyond it because the people who are presently here are not going to give me money, or I'm going to run them off. And that's what's happened. The ones who can't listen to me criticize and critique their religion, they're not here anymore because they can't hear that. And you know who these same people are? They're the same people that as soon as things go bad in their life, they blame God, or they blame their idea of God. So my idea of God is love, and the kingdom of love or God is within me. And I don't even like to use the term God. I refer to it as the most super intelligent power and force of love and creation possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency. And I can't turn that into a business. See, it's simply not possible, and which is fine. But the reality is, when I drive a truck, I choose to freely give a bum $20, and that's my choice. And the fact is, if somebody's listening to this, they might have $50 or $100 that they can freely give to me, and it's neither here nor there for them. Now, if they choose to withhold that until I say the specific type of words that they want to hear, that's bullshit. Because when I give somebody on the street $20, it's my choice, and I'm not asking them to behave in specific ways to earn the $20. And that's only speaking for me. And my thing is, when I have money to support content creators or people that I like their creativity, and people have complimented my ability to just talk, and I know you do this as well, to talk by myself for hours and hours and hours. Why does it need to be tied to, I need to perform in ways that they align with, right? If they enjoy the performance, because when I'm driving a truck, $20 means nothing to me. Why wouldn't I let a bum have it? But that's my world, see, because to a bum, $20 is a lot of money. So to Benton, who I've already delayed the start of my day, I have shit I need to be doing right now. I'm actually putting the needs of the audience ahead of my needs. And part of it is, yes, I'm happy to talk to Steven and I enjoy what we're doing here. But if I was going to suit myself, I would go right now and end the stream, and I would go handle my personal affairs. That is mostly done in the morning times. But I'm actually choosing to put my own needs to the side and to serve the audience. And there's members in the audience who may be present who can just give me money now, and some of them have in the past, right? I'm not calling out anybody in particular. I'm just saying, and some people don't have money to give, and if they don't have money to give, I'm not a prosperity preacher. Like, I don't want people on disability sending me their disability check. And meanwhile, if OTW has a $300 membership level, that's probably some version of somebody on a fixed income who really can't afford to send him $300. That's the sickest part of all of this. It's probably not somebody who just says, well, $300 ain't doesn't mean anything to me, I'm just going to go ahead and give it to OTW. It's probably somebody who realistically can't afford $300 and they're buying a friend on some level. But your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I think that's common in the panelverse with the guys like Chuck. He tries to buy friends with Flogay, and I don't think he's on a disability check, but he uses his donations to try to buy friends. I saw him doing that with that new Landry character.
Mm-hmm.
I think the perception would be different of the audience with your message if you weren't living in a car, if you were living in a $5 million mansion in the
Absolutely.
Hollywood Hills, and you were in front of
Absolutely.
in a living room or with a view of Los Angeles from the hills, Hollywood Hills, and then they would say, well, this is valuable. This guy is a quote unquote success. He lives
Yeah.
in a mansion. And it just changes everything, and that's the way most people are. And I also wanted to add with the sellout aspect of people degrading themselves. They'll put down Hollywood actors, the ones that become Illuminati puppets that sell their soul, if you want to call it that way, to get the mansions, to get the fame, to become movie stars or music stars like Beyonce or Jay
Yep.
Z or whatever. The ones that have $20 million mansions here and there, they sold out. But the reality is, the average person is selling out not for millions, but for far less every day.
Mm-hmm.
They're selling themselves out. They're just not rich and famous. They're selling out for
Yeah.
a lot less. and then they get
Yep.
upset as truthers and say, well, these creatures sold, and they are creatures. They sell out for demonic shit. They do rituals. They do whatever. They do whatever it takes to get that. But these people won't look in a mirror and say, well, fuck, what am I doing? What am I doing for a $20 donation, a $50, $100, $300? What am I doing? Who am I selling out? Do I have any honor, any principles? Am I just a sellout piece of shit that humiliate myself? Or will they be a flow gay and dump piss on themselves in a shower? I don't know if it was piss or Mountain Dew. It was something. He stood in his shower for money. They'll do anything. They'll humiliate themselves for small donations, but at
Yep.
the same time, they'll point the finger at these big sellouts and part of the Illuminati puppet club for selling out for millions. But in reality, they're just selling out for pocket change. And
Hmm.
that's the average person. That's what they do day to day. And they'll work for big corporations and they'll poison the water and the food
Yes.
and they'll do all this stuff to harm people for peanuts. They're not making millions.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's justified to get to poison anybody for 20 million mansion or whatever.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's
I'm
not.
not justifying it. I'm just getting it. Like they'll do this for 40,000, 50,000 a year job, and they'll be working somewhere knowing what they're doing is harming fucking people or
Yep.
babies, or they know what they're doing, and
Yep.
they're selling out for just peanuts, and they're selling out all of humanity and doing tremendous harm in some cases. They're
Hmm.
running certain factories and they're aware, okay, what we're doing here is giving these fucking people that are buying our products, we're doling out cancer here, is what we're doing.
Yep.
And they know that that's what they're doing for their paycheck. So that's a sellout, but it's not somebody that's on TV or in music videos or up on the movie screen. They're not Johnny Depp or they're not fucking Beyonce and or
Yep.
whatever, whoever.
Absolutely. And well,
That's
and see, I
reality. That's
take
day to day. That's most people.
so yes, I agree. And that's not respectable, number one. And number two, I take that same idea and I invert it. I say, well, as a human existing in this world of death and these games of lies, I'm here struggling and I'm in pain and I go through a lot of things, as do we all. And then, so for me, why would I be so foolish as to go through all of this pain and struggle and strife and not use it to transform spiritually within myself and to not improve my own ability to think and reason for myself? If I'm going to go through the painful side of that, what kind of moron would I have to be to go through all of this struggle, but then not live my, and it's a cliche, but the idea of living my truth. Well, truth is manifest, truth is living. So it's to master my own internal space as much as I'm able to. And why wouldn't I do that? And see, that's kind of the inverse of the idea of selling oneself out. It's actually, since I'm struggling anyway, why wouldn't I take the potential benefits, right? Where I am able to have more of my time to myself and I'm sleeping in a car to do it. And I might go back to truck driving, just long enough to make enough money, to keep the ball rolling down, to keep everything afloat. Because, a car it doesn't cost a lot of money, but it does, there are minimum costs involved in a cell phone and cell service and a car and all of these things. And I still have to eat and feed myself, and I'm able to do that, thankfully. But it's not because of these live streams. But and see, I use the live streams, only speaking for myself. I use the live streams also to sort of get my own headspace where it needs to be every morning. Now, what I've said to the stream is, I've said, listen, I can just sit here in a car and talk to myself for 2 hours, whether I broadcast it on YouTube or not. I have the ability to just sit around and speak out loud if I want to. And the people walking by don't know the difference. As far as they know, that's a crazy person and that's a crazy homeless person in the car anyway. What's the fucking difference? This is LA. They're everywhere. Right. But again, why wouldn't I suit myself? Meanwhile, to your point about selling out and the all of the sick, twisted humiliation rituals, all I got to do is take a shower, right? Scrub a dub dub, make sure I put my clean clothes on, maybe go get some Axe body spray and get a haircut. And if you think I can't meet a wealthy person within a week and move in with them, you're out of your fucking mind. Of course I can. But what of my own essence will I have to sell out in order to be able to then broadcast from their, nice piece of property overlooking the fucking hills or whatever. And so now I could potentially put forward an image that these people, and I don't mean truthers, just humans in general, might, because I don't intend this personally as a just overall, excoriation of truthers. It's just more of humanity in general from my perspective, although the truthers certainly deserve a certain amount of this in their own way. But the fact is, I'm simply unwilling to sell out those parts of myself because that's not respectable. And when I walk around and look at these people, increasingly I see people that are simply not respectable. I'm beginning to see, and I don't mean because it's Los Angeles, I mean because the American people are not respectable, which leads me to believe they've never been respectable. And I'm only judging based on what they're showing me of their own behavior. And all that will ever happen is I will be gaslit and attacked, just like the Bible says, well, the servant is not greater than the master. You saw what they did to Jesus. Why do you think it's going to be any different for you, Benton? Because part of the Jesus story was a refusal to sell out, even when he was offered, the kingdoms of the world. Same thing with Benton. Benton can go uh, leech off of somebody else and have a version of a kingdom, but it won't ever be mine. It'll be, and even if it was, I still wouldn't sell out. And see, here's what they don't like about Stephen is we can't identify, you can't attach Stephen's monetary flow to, and I don't mean flow state, but whatever resources Stephen has access to, nobody can provably trace that you ever sold out in order to have those resources. That's what they don't like.
Yes, I agree. They would like it more if they could prove that I sold out, or prove somehow that I scammed somebody or did something evil. That a lot of them just like to assume that that's the case. But in this realm, the way that it's set up, and just because I speak about the design doesn't mean that I like it this way. In fact, I don't like the way this realm is set up and designed. There's no way to survive here without eating life. So when it comes to doing harm, vegans would say, well, you eat animals, so you harm animals. You eat eggs, or you eat meat, or Stephen, you eat steak or pork or whatever, seafood. And I do, but we all eat life here, whether it's plants, animals, animal
See, I don't
products,
even think
eggs,
it's
milk.
alive. I don't think any of that's alive. In the
Oh, really?
context of what this, I don't think so, not in the context of what this realm is. In my opinion, and again, I'm only speaking for me, everything
Hmm.
that traces its origins to this realm is dead. And
Yes.
so it's what I view life, what this world considers to be living, I now view it as an animated death. And it's actually, again, what I am if I'm one with that force that I've described previously. If that's what I am, at my core essence, it's the creative force of that overall force that it animates the death and it makes the death seem to be alive. Right.
Hmm.
It gives like an animated death zombie, death warmed over functionality where it seems like it has life and substance. But if it had life and substance, couldn't it figure out how to escape these traps? Right. Uh, the fact that it originates in this world that we can critique and say it's the nature, the realm is of a specific nature. Right. And how could the most powerful forces of creation and love have ever resulted in this place? Right? Does that sound like life or does that sound like death? To me, it sounds like death. And again, I'm actually, if you look at the philosophy of solipsism, again, I can only really confirm my own life within myself. Meanwhile, I think you hit the nail on the head about 45 minutes ago when you talked about a dream. You said something about, this world as a dream. And one thing I've really been talking about lately on the streams is what I refer to as waking dream, surrealistic notions of unreality. And in my view, that must be reconciled for at all times. And what you did was, without probably even knowing that I've been talking about this lately, you, in your discourse about 45 minutes ago, you actually solved for that within your own equation when you mentioned the dreamlike aspects. And so, what I've noticed with the general public and with other content creators is they refuse to solve the equation mathematically based on, well, clearly there's elements of unreality, there's elements of surrealism and waking dream and deja vu all over again, but it's never reconciled. And to me, that is actually evidence in furtherance of what this place is, because this place can't ever be completely real at a level of true actual authority and substance. And because it lacks substance, because it lacks love, it lacks authority, and it lacks the ability to ever express in a manner that's 100% real, right? Whereas if there's any potential for me to experience as a discrete being 100% realness and substance and authority and love and all of these positive traits, that's only ever within myself. And so I've used what I know of my own nature to then sort of invert and backwards construct what this place has to be. And in fact, my opinion, Stephen, is that what you represent, what I represent, and a limited amount of people. And I'm not trying to create a group, because this is not a group. And certainly what I would say is, any some version of Groucho Marx in any club that would have me, I wouldn't want to be a member anyway. But it's a joke, but there is some truth in that. But in reality, the fact that I am so not I am, but the fact that Benton is so attacked, the fact that Stephen and others are so attacked, and that's such a minority of people, to me, I view the realm as its construction is based on making an enemy of what is symbolically represented by my presence. That's how it seems to me, and I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I do. I would say
And
that.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I would say that I was kind of giving, I guess, a vegan. I'm not a vegan, but a vegan perspective, where vegans would say that we eat life,
Yes.
and they would say, "Well, you're destroyers, you're abusers." I get those comments on my channel quite a bit. Every so many months, there's a few of them from vegans just dropping by saying, "Hey, you're
Hmm.
eating meat, so what does it matter what you say about anything about this realm because you eat animal life?" Or
Yes.
but that's their perspective. Even if that was true, I tend to believe that there's more credence to what Benton is saying about this place being a place of death than a place of life. But even if hypothetically, let's say the vegan perspective was correct, that I'm
Yes.
just eating animal life and I'm destroying, I didn't design it this way. I was put
Yes.
into a place where I have no choice and I have a survival instinct like everyone else does. We're programmed not to self destruct. To overcome that, I realize there are people that self exit, commit the big S, but it takes a lot to override that biological self preservation instinct. So even if they loved animals so much, to end themselves is very difficult to even do. But beyond
Hmm.
that, I didn't design this realm and this system of life eating life if it was life
Exactly.
eating life. I didn't create it this way. I was
Exactly.
thrust into this place where I have to
Yep.
eat something, and I've even tried years ago to just live off of, let's say, vegetarian. My body couldn't do it. I mean, I was like
Absolutely.
experiencing aches and pains and all the things that a lot of people go through, and miserable digestion, and it just fucks you up. Some of us
Absolutely.
we're designed not to live and eat that way, and we can't do it. Now, there might be other digestive systems and metabolisms where people can live 40, 50 years on that diet, but many of us cannot do that. It just doesn't work.
Most can't. Most
Yeah.
can't. Yep.
Yeah. So
Well, man,
it's
this
an
has been,
anomaly, the ones
yeah,
that do live that long.
absolutely. And man, it's been great. Unfortunately, I got to wrap this thing up. I got a few things I want to say solo. Um, just I'm under time constraints at this point. But thank you, sir. It's been an excellent conversation. I know the audience enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, and you've certainly given far more than you've extracted from this experience, which I would say that is the definition of love on some level.
All right,
To
man.
give,
Well,
to freely give. So I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. I like coming on here and having these conversations. Have a good day, Benton, and take care. And I'll see you again soon. I'll be back again one day.
All right, brother. Take care,
Take
man.
it easy, man. Bye.
Yes, sir. Bye bye. That was King Stephen. I certainly, I do regret in some way that I get so worked up, man. My volume gets so high, and my energy starts, it comes almost to a frenetic pace, and I have so many, so many thoughts and ideas that, in my own rush to sort of just blurt them out, it becomes difficult for me to take my time and to trust, right? Part of that is to trust that I'm, not monopolizing. And I'm not saying that Stephen does this, but I could take a little bit more time sometimes in a back and forth than to feel like I need to really like bam, 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 hit all my points. But then part of that is, you know, to get the ideas out there into the ether, while they're still in my brain. Because you saw the one point I made, it took me like 45 minutes to even, circle back into it, only because I'm so excited by, the direction that the stream takes. And the main reason I dropped Steven off was because out of consideration, I wouldn't want him to be on the screen when I begged for money, which is now we're to the e-begging portion. The beggy monster, if anybody knows what that is, the beggy monster's coming out. So with 19 people probably enjoying the conversation on some level, I will say there's a Cash App in my user text down there. I don't think the previous stream, which is now unfortunately, yeah, it's up there. The previous stream has my email and my Cash App and my Venmo. But if anybody has some extra money and appreciates the fact that I've chosen to deviate as a undiagnosed fake autistic person who may very well be neurodivergent, and it's not a disability or a problem. Actually, all of those things are assets. But I certainly prefer to adhere to my schedule. And then, some of what Stephen was talking about with, having everything delivered because he doesn't want to go to grocery stores. Well, part of the reasons why I do these streams early in the morning, and then even though I might have more to say, part of the reason why they stop when they stop is because that's when I need to go to the store and do my shopping for the day. Living in a car, right? I'm going to multiple stores multiple times a day, and it's a blessing to have the money to do that, certainly. And it is what it is at the level of eventually, will I, in the example of the Lord Christ Jesus, will I be able to live without employment and without handling money? Well, I would like to, right? That would, but we're not there yet, right? But to hopefully grow and change and evolve, eventually to that point. But until then, if people have something that they might want to freely give, they're certainly welcome to. So I'll hang out for just a few more minutes if folks feel inclined. If not, no worries. And as I've noted, most of the regular donators, although not all, but most of the regular donators are, suffering from a level of church and Christian so-called indoctrination to where I've become so critical of their own belief systems that most of the people who were generous donators in the past, although when I was more in line with their ideas, right, most of them have exited, which is fine. It's not in any way a bad relationship, or there's no animosity. It's just that it would be nice to, and on some level, it does justify. If anybody ever was like, "Hey, man, we walk by your car and there's all this loud speech and it's strange ideas and this and that," and the moment I say, well, I do get paid to do this on some level, not as a job, but they do at times give me money, that would be a benefit. So just mostly to remind folks that that's available as an option. I certainly understand. Actually, I understand way better than most people exactly what's going, well, not exactly, but I understand what's going on economically. And I understand the crunch that people are under, and the fact that a lot of folks simply don't have the money they need to fulfill their basic needs. So, I'm only talking to people who might have something to spare. And in fact, myself, I'm no longer giving like I used to. I don't tip nearly as much as I used to. I don't just randomly give homeless people money like I used to. Not nearly as much. I, you know, so I understand because I've seen it necessary to sort of rein in my own spending in that way. And I don't really spend frivolously anyway. Um, and so any money that people choose to give would go to a, necessities, right? Things that I need. But here's the thing is, on some level that is a violation because based on what I've been talking about here anyway, it's attachment to this world. So if I become too strongly identified with, having to do certain things to get money, well, that's going to be to treat my blessing, again, to treat blessing as if it were a curse, and that's not appropriate. So the reality is I'm going to be, you know, I'm blessed either way, whether folks have some money to spare or they don't. But, you know, especially today, facilitating and giving, even above and beyond, perhaps what I've been giving lately. But then also in the context of yesterday's stream, which is this realm cannot, um, it can't value what is freely given. And, and then some of the points that me and Stephen were able to highlight around, exactly why people behave that way. It's based on their own Stockholm syndrome around, necessarily having to exist within a society that its notion, it's inverted backwards rationalized constructions of love, tolerance, and acceptance is actually based on withholding of resources, withholding of acceptance, and withholding of love. And that so many people are so abused, like, individually, so many of us have been so abused historically that we can't tell the difference between, oh, look, the system and the people around us are no longer, have temporarily discontinued this process of fear, guilt, and shame, and anxiety and attack, that whatever's left in the breach seems like love and acceptance. And I'm here to tell you, no, it's not. Right. And the fact that I'm willing to come on here and yeah, and I get something out of it? Of course I do, because giving is receiving on some level. Just like anybody that contributes, they do receive something. They receive, whatever the positive feelings are of knowing that, there is somebody, um, living in a particular type of way in a particular part of the country, who does at times, preach on Jesus and the financial system and the folly of serving the systems that Stephen spoke on, the humiliation, the degradation, the harm being done to society. Right. I do at least confront some of those people individually, not individually, but I do confront them in the streets, not in a illegal or inappropriate manner, but just through a generalized, non-specific, mostly non-specific, delivering of speeches. But when the inspiration strikes, right, not at all times, not daily, and I certainly don't do it with a tip jar, or, I'm not going to be able to do that in the physical. That wouldn't be appropriate. And so if folks feel compelled to donate, they're certainly welcome to, although I don't necessarily anticipate that happening at this time. What I expect is, oh, thank you. Yes, I got exactly what I was asking for. Thank you very much. That's, you know who you are. And because I'm not, I seem to lack the ability to know who might want to be recognized and who might not want to be recognized. So let me check the chat and see, did they say anything about it? Um, but yeah, thank you. You know who you are. I do appreciate that. It will go to a good home. Thank you, Chris, who says great stream. So I got a donation, actually two donations, and I've also gotten something else I've asked for, which is the audience in general. Pretty pleased with sugar on top. Could I get some flowers and a compliment here and there, but only when I've earned it, of course, because you know, unlike some folks who might. And I don't mean Steven, but some folks who might desire to be complimented and have their butt kissed to some extent. And I think y'all know who I'm talking about, who sort of need to be. And there's a part of me that's this way also. That and I've famously said that I'm powered by compliments as long as they're genuine, right? But I certainly wouldn't want to attach any demand to that, but it means a lot. I got a really good comment on the second stream from yesterday. Somebody spent their time, and I'm not. That's the first time I've seen that particular person post in the chat or in the comments. They gave me a thoughtful message and said why they like to listen to me and gave me compliments on my abilities. And I think we all kind of need that at times, right? And then if we look at this demonic, arduous, difficult place of death and struggle and strife and resistance and warfare, again, not an abundant world, a world of the lack of abundance, then I think all of us sort of need that on some level here and there. And so I will compliment the audience and say, uh, and if it sounds self-congratulatory, so be it. But I do want to compliment the audience on at least having the ability to appreciate whatever in the world this is, because I don't necessarily know what it's going to be ahead of time. And so it is to the credit of some of the audience, although not all of you. Some of you come here, and I'm not talking about Chris. I'm not talking about Christos, but some of you do come here more for the negative reinforcement that it certainly was more prevalent in the past. Hopefully, folks have noticed that I'm doing way less, sort of having a go at the audience and denigrating and insulting and putting them in their place. It does happen at times, but there's far less of that, certainly. And then if anybody is going to run to Bex and talk about how she was made sport of and insulted, and then say, and perhaps for the first time try to say that, well, Benton said this or that, I think Christos can remind you of how much restraint I've showed to Bex when she's directly, forcefully attacked me in the past. I bet you Christos remembers that. And that the fact that I chose to take the high road, which is not necessarily in my character, well, it's not necessarily in my playbook overall, but that I in fact chose to exercise a great deal of restraint. So if I feel like pointing out that realistically she's only ever taken from me, meanwhile I have chosen to freely give to her at times, I would hope that would be worked into the whichever, and I don't mean Christos, whichever flying monkey or monkeys might want to go stir up drama. And look, we know the so-called truth community is drama powered to some extent, so it's fair. It's not. It's certainly within the realms of fair play to go back and report. And I myself do my own versions of reporting various things to various folks. Not anymore, but in the past, I've stirred that pot myself as much or maybe more than other folks in the past. So certainly Benton is not above that. But I would hope that it would be, characterized more in a, Benton's not trying to be energetically drained, especially by people that he knows are not going to reciprocate. And I don't need reciprocation. It's that if a person will seek me out like Bex and will drain me at my energy, but then I don't see her freely giving to anybody. It doesn't have to be me, right? It could be somebody else. So really, what have you done for me lately? The Janet Jackson song. What have you done for anybody lately? And it's not intended as a call out. It's more of a, why would I choose to continue to have a person like that in my life versus Stephen, who, just the fact that there's somebody who is capable and willing and giving of their time to have a back and forth with somebody that at times is foolish as myself, and then I myself have benefited from hearing his ideas. And it could be a bit of a two-way street, possibly. I can't say for sure. It's possible that's a bit of a two-way street. And this, to me, this is what it's all about on some level. It's this is the living manifestation of what I am. This is the manifesting truth in the moment. This is the life. The what I am is the way. What I am is the truth. What I am is the life. That's the meaning of the Bible passage. It's not a dogmatic, doctrinal, if that's a word. It's not a dogmatic. It's not a dogma and a doctrine, right? It's a world that lacks the ability to understand the meaning of Christ, when Christ speaks in the vein and the vernacular of what I am is the way, what I am is the truth, what I am is the life. And that was the ultimate point that I was making there at the end. Uh, in wrapping up this, is that what's the purpose of me coming here? Within this vacuous, delusory, adversarial realm of business transactions, what's the point of going through all of this and being made to, be indoctrinated to serve corporations, to make rich people richer, and to do that out of my own ignorance because I didn't know any better in the past? And to then, so what's the point of going through the evil, the subversion to evil, and serving evil out of my own ignorance? What's the point of going through the struggle and strife that's built into that without then accessing and taking advantage of the potential spiritual growth? And yesterday's stream, the second stream, a lot of the theme of that was to recognize that very few individuals are going to see things that way, and that I do suffer. Part of my own suffering, and in fact part of the collective suffering, is that individuals simply, for the most part, will not do what they need to do within themselves to grow, change, and evolve. And in fact, it's not possible to have a proper society when the average or median state of the individual represents an individual that lacks the ability um, to participate in a proper society, which then means, well, there can't ever be a proper society if the average or median level of performance individually doesn't meet a minimum standard of being able to function within a proper society. And in fact, it's gotten so bad that I would argue that in some ways, a lot of these mentally ill, drug addicted, homeless people, right? And I meet at least the standard of a homeless person, and maybe half of the crazy person part, but then certainly not the drug addicted. So I might be one, I might be half of a mentally ill, drug addicted, homeless person, or one third, right? Or yeah, maybe I might represent half of whatever that is. If it's either way, or 67, I don't know. Yeah, it'd be half. It'd be all of one third and then half of another third. So yeah, that would add up to 50%. I'm not a mathematician, folks. Um, that in some ways they are the most pragmatic and they're the freest of all, and they serve this wicked system of things the least in a lot of ways. They're not out here generating tax revenue. Now, certainly this, in a world in which everything's a business, certainly homelessness and drug addiction and mental illness, those are three businesses that are combined into one, or separated, as need be. But the individuals who are suffering in the streets, and my own suffering and your own suffering, what I would say to individuals is, why bother to come to this place, this world, this realm, this world of death? Why bother to do that and not take advantages of any and all opportunities to grow and change and evolve internally? Because yes, that's also going to be a struggle. That's also going to hurt. Just like uh, just like seeking conformity and equalization. I know that there's a person called Paul Enslaved, and he talks about the equalization, and I think he's right on the money when he talks about the equalization. Seeking to equalize, and so in the being's own um, efforts and energies directed towards this equalization, not with other humans so much as the world and the economic system and the systems of education, employment, all of the things that that individuals are subjected to. And as Stephen noted towards the end of the conversation, did any of us choose that? Well, if we did, we've forgotten that we chose it, right? If we chose it, we've forgotten that we that we chose it. So what's the difference? So again, the struggle is there. And so in my own efforts in my own limited ability to inspire, what I would say is that, well, the suffering is there regardless. And then meanwhile, I believe in some ways, Benton has shown a path to relieving some of the suffering. Certainly, the unlocking of the achievement within the game of lies in the world of death. Benton here is experiencing way less, anxiety, fear, shame, guilt, negativity, physical pain, right? As a result of unlocking that achievement. And the fact is, a lot of that came from continuing to work at various processes long enough to, again, in a sublime fashion, sort of have that wisdom, visited upon my head, because it's not necessarily fully attained. The attainment part is being willing to put the work in. So what I would want to be encouraging of individuals is to go within themselves and to internally bootstrap, because the reality, folks, is, as an individual, if you, anybody listening to this that is possessed of the Nancy Pelosi MS-13 spark of divinity, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine, which again is a mockery, the realm mocking what I am. But if you are what I am, then hopefully this could represent some measure of inspiration of, hey, the power is within you. The kingdom of God is love. The kingdom of God or love is within you. So that's telling you where it's located. Where is the power of love located? Huey Lewis and the News in the house. Where is the power of love? It's inside of you. So now we know where it is. Well, where is it not? It's not outside of you. It's not at a church. It's not at a job. It's not at a school. It's not at a club. It's not within your group of friends. It's also not there within your peer groups. It's not in your social media. It's within you first. Now, when individuals raise the level of their vibrations and consciousness and internally bootstrap, then and only then are they capable of a proper relationship with other people. So back to the Paul enslaved notion of seeking to equalize with other people. Well, that's simply not ever going to work when the person seeking to equalize and the people that are being sought out to equalize with, none of them have bothered to bring themselves up within themselves. So how in the world, can any of what people assume will be this great fruit that will then be brought forth, until the individual is bringing forth of that fruit, whereby we can properly judge the tree and make the tree good, right? Until that happens, what we're looking at, struggle, strife, folly, and a fallen condition. So if the person is going to experience the struggle and the strife and the fallen condition on the front end, as virtually all of us have, and I would say, unless the being lived a life similar to Jesus in spiritual perfection, every moment of every day for the entirety of the being's life, well, the struggle and the strife and the challenges and to be preyed upon by a realm of death within the context of a game of lies, why not, while you're here, go ahead and do what is necessary to grow and change and evolve and move beyond and transcend, by definition, the self-imposed, the largely self-imposed limitations. And that's something that I can't help you with at the level of subscribe to my take my seminar, sign up for my monthly subscription, and I'll have a private call with you on a consultant basis. Give me a certain amount of money and I'll get on a call with you. If somebody seeks me out who is actually doing their own spiritual practice, and they have specific questions, not general questions, because remember, anybody can come here for free and listen to the general knowledge, but you're not getting it tailored. You're not getting the ability, unless you type it into the live chat and I happen to see it, or if there's a live chat at that time. And you're going to need to catch that live, right? If people did want to pay for my time, but see, that I'm going to need something from them. I'm going to need them to actually be working on their own progress, mind, body, and spirit within themselves, in order to have specific questions that I most likely could answer. I would be into that, but pretty quickly I would be able to understand from the nature of the conversations whether the person is actually working towards internal growth. And could I be fooled for a time? Yeah, of course. But I'm here to tell you, with this pattern recognition, I would know fairly quickly that, okay, well, this is a person who's actually faking the funk, and I would then lose interest because I wouldn't continue. It wouldn't be worth it to me to continue to engage with something that I knew was fake just to get money because I can go drive a truck. Until the truck driving industry sends me the message that they're no longer interested in my services. And the last time I turned to the truck driving industry, they let me know that they were very interested in my services as long as I was willing to be a good little slave and allow myself to be micromanaged through AI and harangued and harassed unnecessarily, even though I'm already picking up and delivering on time and I'm already not endangering the motoring public. See, so up until the truck driving industry lets me know that I can't turn to it for resources, then I'm more inclined to to go to truck driving. But the reality is that may not always be there, and uh, in my view, it would be a greater value to society to perhaps assist other people in growing and changing and evolving, but also understanding that that's only an internal process, and that the human in this inverted world, the human is always going to seek to join an external group. And they're going to want there to be a club, and they're going to want to be able to tell their social circles about it. And the reality is they're going to want to seek to define themselves on some level in relation to the endeavor itself. What I'm saying is, anytime I've progressed as a human, whether it's in the realm at the level of getting my CDL and being able to work as a truck driver at times, or all of the internal bootstrapping, I shut the fuck up and set about doing the thing. Right. And what I did not do was try to find other people who might be interested in becoming truck drivers. I didn't find other people who were interested in spiritually evolving. Right. But I sought out every available resource. When I met somebody who I identified might have some particular knowledge, I would pick their brain. I would ask them specific questions. And I continue to do that to this day. Now, what we see with the society degenerating further and further and further is that less and less often do I happen to come across somebody that is able to answer specific questions that I can pick their brain and learn something from them. See, and so part of my own giving is you know I do want to freely give some of this information, and then if there exists a possibility of a sharing of resources, um, I'm certainly open to that, but not in a way to which somebody is not going to make progress, but they're going to continue to pay me money just to talk to me. That's not ever going to fly, um, because eventually it would be some version of, hey, man, society has no chance whatsoever. And I don't look. I don't know society to have a chance to ever become a proper society, but I'm here to tell you it can't happen until individuals um, raise the level of their performance within themselves. It's simply not possible. And I've done that. I've achieved that. I'm above whatever my performance is now above that minimum standard. And it's been a systematic approach applied over time, many, many, many days and months and years to get to this point, to be able to break this down. And hopefully y'all realize that, in spite of some of my own hindrances, um, that I was able to keep up with King Stephen there in certain ways, and thus proving, you know, um, intellectually some of my own abilities. And you know, when we talk about bootstrapping mind, body, and spirit, you know, and this is something I've learned about myself through various endeavors, is it's human nature is to first direct the efforts to the things that we want to do, and that tends to be what we're good at. So if somebody is a little better at the emotional intelligence, but they're not so strong in the logic and reason, well, you've got somebody here called Benton who taught himself logic and reason in his 30s or beginning in his 30s. So I understand the process of systematically breaking a lot of these things down to their small pieces, right? And and can be useful. I do know a great deal about, what to do with the body and what to do with the health to enable healing. I've certainly learned and taught myself how to unblock the blockages that the being is most likely unknowingly creating within themselves to prevent themselves from accessing certain spiritual powers, such as when yesterday, erroneously caused problems within my own energy sphere that I was then able to quickly resolve through a particular application of, spiritual processes that are simply not available to most people because most people don't know that they're in their own way at the level of blocking all of that. So again, thank you all for the donations. It's very well received, and I certainly appreciate the compliments. I appreciate the money. Thank you for that. They're both very useful, and on some level, this does represent a lifting up, right? Something is being uplifted here. Is it love in the way of God is love, right? It's what exactly is being uplifted? Well, it's certainly not some ragtag motley crew group of individuals being upheld and uplifted. That's not the thing. It's what inspiration, what sources of power and authority and creation and love are accessible within the individual for the purposes of the individual to then what? To enable the individual to bring forth into the realm, their own blessing, their own manifesting truth, right? In ways that can eventually, although probably not today, probably not tomorrow, probably not next week, but that eventually would at least have the potential to express in ways that would represent, the so-called idea of make the world, be the change that you would want to see in the world. Well, that starts, maybe with the Michael Jackson Man in the Mirror, but it also starts with the mastery and the reconciliation, and the to take ownership and responsibility and accountability of the internal space, and not to do it in conjunction with other people. uh go into thy closet style. And I'm here to tell you, it's difficult, it's disorienting, it's painful, it sucks. And you've got a person who knows that it sucks. I know exactly how painful it is. I know exactly how disorienting it is because I've done it and I continue to do it on a daily basis. And so much so that I'm choosing to forego my own needs temporarily. Because why? Because I'm voting with my actions, because I know what is happening here to be that important. That, again, in the notion of applying a concept from the movie Fight Club, which is to let that which does not matter truly slide. Well, to go get the eggs from the store on some level doesn't really matter at all. To go to another store and get what I need doesn't really matter because somebody donated enough money that I can just go buy a prepared meal now, right? I can wait till later. I don't need to go do all of that right now. And I can wait till this evening to go get the eggs. That doesn't have to be done right now because now it's a time of day where, I'm not going to be able to avoid the crowds. I need to go get a couple of gallons of water, right? Well, there's a machine up the street where I know I can go to this machine and not have to deal with a line of people necessarily, right? I don't have to go wait in line at the, the hippy dippy, you know, uh, new agey type grocery store and wait in line, uh, in a kind of just too cramped environment, right? And I'm with King Stephen on, you know, I prefer to go do it as soon as they open so I can avoid a big crowd of folks, right? That's just better for old Benton. Um, there's less opportunities for Benton to be spiritually attacked, and then it's also, so some of the teachings is the frustration of so what if the person is not that frustrated with their daily life because they don't understand that they may be under spiritual attack, right? Although maybe not, because why would the world of death and the game of lies, it's not going to spiritually attack somebody who's serving the world of death and the game of lies. So to part of the disorientation and these processes when the individual seeks out to grow and change and evolve and internally bootstrap, part of that is that they will soon reach a level to where they will begin to come under spiritual attack. And then it's like, oh man, what do I do about this? Now we're coming under, these conundrums, and these problems are cropping up in the physical realm. Well, some of that is to merely understand, yeah, hey, it's to be under spiritual attack in the moment. And this is where I challenge the Christians is, hey, Christians, your book says that if you do the damn thing, you will be persecuted. So if I wake up tomorrow and I'm not spiritually attacked, I know I'm in trouble. See, so that this is sort of the Buddhic or the Eastern notion of to view the struggle or the attacker as not as an enemy, but to be grateful for the attack itself, because there is some version of there is some version of that's actually helpful to be spiritually attacked. Meanwhile, here's what happens with the spiritual progression is the attacks only grow more sophisticated, cunning, deceptive, difficult to spot, and hard to deal with. It doesn't get easier. The easy attacks become easier to deal with, right? The more difficult attacks show up more often, to where, oh, look, a person that I thought I had a good relationship with, that I've spoken to for hour after hour after hour on the so-called back channels, is now spiritually attacking me, whether they know it or not, whether they choose to see it that way or not. I don't need them to agree that I'm being spiritually attacked. A spiritual attack is a spiritual attack, full stop. So if I wake up tomorrow and I'm like, hey, where's my spiritual attack? You know, I know I'm on the wrong motherfucking track. And, it can be helpful if people are actually putting in a good faith effort of growing and changing and evolving within themselves. It can be beneficial to collaborate and consult somebody who's been there, done that, and continues to go there and do exactly that. And to do it without encouragement. And this was also one of the major themes of yesterday's stream. One of the major themes of yesterday's stream is to remind myself that I'm doing all of this with basically zero encouragement much of the time. And at a certain point, it's like, at what point does it cross over to me making an ass out of myself because I'm continuing to give freely to people who not only are not necessarily helping me, but they're actually, some of them, maybe half or more at times, are seeking to undermine and attack. And then look at a person like this Soul Read Analytics, who came here, called me, before the stream started, typed nasty messages into my chat, called me names, basically told me to get my shit together. Well, I'm being told to get my shit together by somebody who doesn't have his shit together. Somebody that if I spent time with in the physical, we would quickly see who has their shit together and who doesn't. See, but we can always gaslight and attack a homeless person who sleeps in a car. See, again, just like Jesus, after, not just like, but similar to Christ after baptism, where he did not work a job and he did not handle money. This is also known as a homeless person. See, traveling around place to place. The Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. See, because why? Because this is never my home. See, I'm never at home in this world, whether I have a palatial estate, no matter how nice of an environment, no matter how nice the custom home I grew up in is, right? Irrespective of all of that, right? What's the difference between sleeping in a car but living my purpose versus growing up in a nice custom home and, for many years serving a wicked system of making rich people richer every new moment into perpetuity. And again, like Stephen said, the degradation, the humiliation that's performed for a very basic low level of resources. So what I'm accessing here is basic level resources if people choose to donate. And then But what's happening is there's a potential for something to grow out of that versus if I get my shit together and get my act together in the way that soul read analytics or SRA means, then that's to serve this demonic world of business transactions that no matter what I do, if I serve a corporation, I am serving the master of rich people, right? How can it ever be appropriate that my master is rich people? It doesn't make any sense, right? And if I could find an earthly human being that was capable of that was worthy and could meet the standard of baptizing me, and it's not Mr. Miyagi. Mr. Miyagi made it known at a certain point when I was physically, when I was in the physical environment with Mr. Miyagi that he's baptized multiple people, and I considered it. He didn't offer, but I considered asking. It's like, no. And the reality is, having already received baptism in the Holy Spirit, I'm not sure that the physical baptism is ever going to occur. Meanwhile, the physical's dead in the first place. The Son of Man is dead, right? This idea of the body of Christ, that's dead. This idea of, Jesus referred to as the Son of Man, that's dead. See? So it can't ever have been the sacrifice of the Son of Man that had any value because death can't redeem life. Meanwhile, what Christ was can never need redemption. What Christ was can never be in need of redemption, right? Meanwhile, the flesh is not redeemable in the first place. So, what in the world is the Bible talking about, right? Well, to me, it's talking about energetically, right, crossing over from identification with the flesh through what? Enjoying the pleasures of the flesh, right? Through, seeking to glorify one's own self through the flesh and gratification. And it doesn't just have to be sexual. This occurs in many ways, right? Arrogance, pride, vanity, the all seven of the so-called deadly sins, right? Well, that's all dead anyway. There's no reason to redeem that because and I started to hit some of these points with Stephen, but I failed to take enough time to fully make my points. But see, that's all dead anyway. And some of these are subtle points, and they've already sort of escaped me, but it's probably okay anyway. But how many are listening? We're still hanging on to 14, folks. It's quite the rant there. Yeah, it's right in the acronym. That's right. That's right, just a gal. Anyway, I'm out. We've done 5 hours of streaming today, 5+ hours. So I'm going to call that good. So that's about $4 an hour. And I don't mean I'm not talking to the person that donated. I'm talking to the audience. So the value to this, as far as this realm is concerned, at least today, this performance is worth less than $4 an hour. If anybody's curious. So anyway, I'm out. Thanks for watching. Bye.